The opinions expressed in this program are not those of CISA 7 or Time Warner Cable.
What's your tomorrow?
As a special education teacher, I've worked with students that are more successful in a different learning environment. The district has started the John Dewey Academy of Learning to work with students that learn in a different manner. Some people may be surprised to learn about the diverse background of our students, both ethnically and in socioeconomic status. Green Bay is ethnically more diverse than other school districts statewide. According to the Wisconsin DPI, 42% of the student population is non-white, compared to an average of 25% for other districts in Wisconsin. At my school, 62% of the students are non-white. When you factor in socioeconomic status, the disparity becomes even greater. We have 80% of our students categorized as socially as economically disadvantaged. District-wide, it's over 60%. But 84 of our students by 8th grade score proficient or advanced on the test. There's little evidence to show that the voucher program has been successful in either Milwaukee or the Ohio voucher program, while in Green Bay, its tests, our scores are improving. Vouchers are going to raise property taxes for Green Bay residents. Thank you.
After Michael will be Marissa Blizniak. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mike Connor. I live at 314 South Irwin here in Green Bay. My issue, fortunately, doesn't involve spending any money. On December 21st, I was sitting in the parking lot at Howell Elementary School, listening to the vigil for the children that were massacred in Sandy Hook Elementary School. I bring cupcakes in for my daughter. I go to ring the buzzer, and there's a sign there saying, "The door's open. Don't ring the buzzer. Come on in." Since then, I've been calling, writing emails. Excuse me. So my solution is very simple. Can you please lock the door at Howell Elementary School? It will cost you nothing. Thank you.
We do have our presentation tonight on school security, and I believe Barbara Dorff is here. And so I don't know where she is, but if
Right over there.
Barbara, if you would please follow up with this gentleman, I greatly
We've
appreciate
spoken
it.
before, and the door still remains unlocked. I was told that it's policy, that it's not required for the elementary schools. Ann Sullivan's school keeps their door locked. My other daughter goes to Washington Middle School, locked again. We just moved up here in June from Chicago, where all the doors are locked. But coming here and being told that a locked door does not add anything to security is amazing to me.
I just want to mention just that this will be addressed during the security report. I will not be responding to him, but this all will be addressed during the security report.
Good.
Which, are you finished?
Well, I just think it's been too long. I mean, 26 children get massacred. They're passing new laws all over the place, and I can't get them to lock a door.
All right. Thank you.
So I would just ask that you please, tomorrow morning, lock the door. The door is locked now. If I go to the school, the door is locked. So apparently, there's only things to protect in the school when the children are not there.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then next is Paula Winter after Marissa. Go ahead.
My name is Marissa Blizniak, and I live at 1309 Fox River Drive in De Pere, Wisconsin. I decided to come up today to speak because I think it's important in this time to take a moment to celebrate our public schools. I'm a relatively new teacher in the district, and I've had the opportunity to work at 2 amazing public schools here in Green Bay, and my experience has been a very positive one. I wanted to talk about 2 of the main things that I think are amazing about our public schools. I love working in a district that is student-centered, collaborative approach to learning. It has allowed me to develop as a teacher, and I've had this great opportunity to work with so many mentors and collaborate with colleagues to get the ideas of what is working in education and to share my own ideas and to really grow as a teacher here in this district. I also think it's wonderful to be working in a school that's so focused on student enrichment. I'm very proud to work at a school where students are offered several opportunities within the school day and outside of the school day to extend their learning outside of the regular classroom. Many of my students this year are working in Math Bowl and are also part of reading competitions, show choir, and improvisation classes in addition to their regular curriculum. So it's been amazing to be a part of the district and to really see what's great about our public schools, and I am so thankful to be working with such amazing students, staff, and families, and I'm very thankful for our public schools here in Green Bay Public School District. Thank you.
Then Kim Plant, I think it says, will go after Paul Winter.
I'm Paula Winter. I live at 1355 Eliza Street in Green Bay. I'm here as a parent of 2 students who graduated from East High School recently. Whenever I get a chance to give staff at East High School a pat on the back, I like to do that, and so that's why I offered to come today. I want to tell you a little bit about my daughter who graduated in 2011. That happened to be the first school year that the new anatomy and physiology materials were purchased in the district and taught at East High School. It was absolutely fabulous to see her bring home this brand new, huge, fat, wonderful current book and to sit with her and watch her study, something that was really interesting to her, very difficult and very challenging. She, I feel, received an excellent education, and I think part of that was because the staff at East saw what she could do as an individual. They saw her strengths, and they guided her. They allowed her to attend a leadership program at the end of her sophomore year. They selected her to be a Badger Girls student. At the end of her junior year, she was on student council. She did some other leadership things that allowed her to practice what she was taught. But I also believe that the staff modeled and they molded her. Another thing that I want to appreciate for the staff is that when she asked them to write letters of recommendation for her to college, someone noted that she was able to work with people of many diverse backgrounds. And when she was accepted to one of the universities, that exact statement came back as, wow, this is what the people that are your teachers say about you. Cool. So I'm very proud of her, obviously. Now she is attending Michigan Technological University as a chemistry major. At the end of her freshman year, her professor asked her to come to see him, and he offered her a job as a teaching assistant for the class that she had just completed for this school year. So that's what she's doing as her part-time job, and she knows it will look wonderful on her resume. She was also called in by someone from the biomedical department and asked to be a research assistant, and she wrote herself a grant, and that will fund her. She got the maximum amount for the grant to fund her ability to stay at school and be on the research team this summer. So thank you to the East High staff. It takes a village, and I am very happy that you were supporting me as a parent.
And then we have Kim followed by Joel Dinny or Diney? Not sure. Dinny, okay. And then before you start, I just wanted to let you know we have a number of uniformed police officers here, and that's not because we're expecting any kind of trouble. It's because the first item on our agenda tonight is our safety and security plan review. And so they're here waiting for our board, the first agenda item. So I just wanted to let you know that. Go ahead, Kim.
Hi, my name is Kim Plant. I'm 1109 Patrick Henry Avenue, De Pere. I'm also the product of public education, actually from Greenfield High School, a little down south from you guys. Basically, I'm here speaking in opposition of the private vouchers, and I think that I would say that I want to talk to you about fairness versus choice. I believe that in both systems, the system that's currently public schools, we offer choice already. We've heard all about it, instrumentality, charter schools, there's all kinds of choice. The question is, if we have the vouchers come in, are we going to have two fair systems of public education? And I believe the answer is no. We only have a finite amount of money for schooling in the state. Yet we're looking at setting up two different systems of schooling. Private vouchers will not need to serve all students. They will have the opportunity to say no to any student they like. Private voucher schools will have no accountability in terms of having licensed teachers, in terms of answering all of the different accountability standards, in terms of assessment. Private voucher schools will not be mandated to follow all of the other systems that are being put in place, including educator effectiveness for evaluations, Common Core state standards, specific learning disabilities, PBIS, RTI, and I know a lot of people don't know what all those things stand for, and many of you teachers don't even know what they stand for, but they're going to be facing them in 2014-15 anyway. What bothers me about the private school vouchers is also, if you follow the money, these vouchers can go ahead, they take these students, they have them in their ranks until the 3rd September count, and after that they're not obligated to keep them. The money stays with the voucher school, and the public school, wherever that student resides, has to take them back. This is not a fair system. In a time when we have very limited budget, why are we setting up two different systems? So think about fairness and the fact that when they say there's only choice in one system, know that that's not true. Public schools offer choice, great choices for all students. Thank you.
And then after Joel, we have Jake Jackal. Go ahead.
Good evening. Joel Denny. I live at 2335 Pecan Street, number 11 in Green Bay. Bottom line up front is our schools in Green Bay are failing. That's a fact seen by the report cards showing just how poorly our high schools are doing. West High School, F. East High School, F. Preble, which I graduated in 2005, got a D, and Southwest got a C. Wow, that's something great, isn't it? Looking at Finland and their education model, they lead the world in education. And they do it spending 30% less per student than we do here in America. There is an article in The Guardian right here showing those very numbers. If you want, you can read it. The point is our education system in Green Bay is broken. It's broken in the state, it's broken in the country. The cookie-cutter method of teaching is no longer effective. By providing parents and students with a choice, we can allow our children to have the best education we can give them. When I ran for state assembly this last time around, this is what I fought for, was to help give students and parents a choice. Time and time again, I hear the words, think of the children, which I'm doing. They deserve a top-notch system, something we are not providing. I understand that many of you are frustrated. I have family and friends that are educators. Dr. Chris Wagner, you're a principal at Preble. did a lot for me, as did Mr. Mark Smith, my psychology teacher at the time. Excellent teachers, excellent educators. However, by looking at the grades in these reports and looking at the lies we are hearing from the superintendent's office, WEAC, Dan Evers, and others about vouchers, the fact is the system needs revamping. And by encouraging competition, just like we do in the private sector, either public schools are going to adapt and grow, or they're going to fall, one or the other. School choice is the only logical solution to help our children, indeed our future, have a better shot at life. After all, it's for the sake of the children.
After Jake, we have Janet Roberts. Go ahead.
My name is Jake Jekyll. I'm from the Denmark School District. I live at 13926 Hickory Grove Road, Maribel. I'm here because I want to offer some background from elsewhere. I grew up in Wisconsin. I moved back about 5 years ago. I spent 40 years in California. My daughters were educated in Catholic private schools, grade school, and a Catholic high school, which my wife and I gladly paid for. We didn't ask for vouchers. The voucher situation came up in California. We were against it. This is our choice. We made it, and we paid for it, and we were glad to do it. We didn't ask anyone else to pay for our children's education. California now has charter schools. The charter schools are run in a lot of cases by corporations. They're limited to 12 or 13 charter schools per corporation. They've been caught violating this. They cannot be trusted. My daughters would have done just as well at a private school, a public school. So all I can say, if people who want to send their kids to private schools, go right ahead, but don't ask us to pay for it. Thank you.
Then Lynette Clancy. Go ahead, Janet.
My name is Janet Roberts, and I live at 105 West Mission Road in Alloway. I'm the parent of a senior at Green Bay East High School, and we have had, my son has been in the Green Bay schools since kindergarten at Webster School. I am here to speak both about opposition to the voucher program and about East's image as a failing school. No matter what the grade is, I do not believe that East is a failing school, but let me take you back about 12 years ago. When my son was a first grader at Webster School, his teacher sent a note home saying she was very concerned about his ability to learn in a classroom. We met with the teacher, the principal, the school social worker, and a number of other district employees and decided to go through the district to have him tested. Many parents who are in our position go to private testing because they're concerned that their child might be labeled as, well, I'm not going to use the R word here, but you know what I mean. They're afraid that he would be tagged as a difficult student. It took us a year to get a diagnosis working through the district, but we did. We got a diagnosis of Asperger's, and we worked with the district ever since first grade to come up with a program of education and accommodations for him. He has an IEP. Even as a senior at East, he still has his IEP, and we have been very grateful for the services that we received through the district and through his schools, both with his regular classroom teachers, with his school officials, the principals, vice principals, the school social workers, and his special education teachers. He had a wonderful teacher at Washington Middle School, Mary Adrians. He has been graduated out, I guess you could say, of his program at East, but Rachel Popey continues to oversee his IEP and has been a major factor in his success. I'm not going to lie and tell you that it wasn't rough. We did have a few rough years, but he got to high school, he got into the music program, and that flipped the switch, and that led him to many, many opportunities that have taken him far beyond where we ever thought he could go. He is on the student council at East. He is in the East Show Choir. He had one of the lead roles in the musical this fall. He's actually auditioning for commencement speaker as we speak, I think. I am concerned that vouchers would reduce the amount of financial aid that is available for people like Evan. that in order to meet the cutbacks, you might have to cut back the services that he received. You may have to cut back the musical programs that turned it around for him and made him such a successful student. And I'm also countering the image of East as a failing school, because I don't know that this would have happened in another location. And by the way, I think you know my child. He's Evan Ash. He's a member of the Inner City Student Council who has been here. Thank you for your time.
And then after Lynette, we have, Margaret Keeler, sorry, I can't quite read that. Go ahead.
I'm Lynette Clancy. I reside at 1128 14th Avenue. I have concerns about the voucher program and the cost that it has to taxpayer. I think the lady from De Pere actually eloquently said a lot of the concerns that I have, so I'm not going to repeat those. I'm also concerned on who this is going to help, because if I understand correctly, the average family is $40,000, where our school lunch program is actually $24,000. So if we're going to be helping underserved children, we're missing the boat in a whole $25,000 range. So we're missing the boat on the underserved, and we will be paying for people who are already at the private sector. So I support the opposition of this program. I also don't think that our schools are failing. Our schools are offering huge new programs that I think are very exciting. My daughter attends Jackson, and it has the bilingual program, and my 3-year-old is going to possibly be in that program. I am so excited about that. I actually think that we offer enough through choice. I actually choice my 8-year-old to Jackson because of childcare. If I didn't have that option, I would have to figure out something as far as financially that would affect our family to take away from what we have. And so I think that's an awesome choice. I also think that we have a lot of choice added with the Langlade program that's been started. We just had somebody from the IB program of Franklin and West come to our PTO meeting to tell us about what is going to be offered for a middle school. So my 8-year-old, my husband and I are actually looking for a home right now, and we're trying to decide between a different district and Green Bay District, and we are leaning towards Green Bay District because of that. So I would really like you guys to think about opposing that and continuing to oppose the voucher program. Thank you.
Betsy, oh wow. What is it? Luchai, thank you. Go ahead, Margaret.
Hi, my name is Margaret Keeler. I live at 3536 Spyglass Hill Drive in Green Bay. My children attend Red Smith. My son has Asperger's, and he's one of those kids that costs more to educate than the state reimburses. When he was in 4K, he did go to a private 4K. This was before the 4K was implemented in Green Bay. And the principal there numerous times came up to me to remind me that they would not take my son, even if I wanted him to go there, because they would not have the services. They wouldn't have the speech. They wouldn't have the OT. They wouldn't have the school psychologist. They wouldn't have the school counselor. They wouldn't have the nurse. It was very frustrating. I'm very lucky we have an excellent school system. But when it comes to competition, I don't think anybody is against competition, but if you're going to be running a race with somebody and you have to run 17 miles and they only have to run 4, they're going to win. So the only way it can be truly competitive between the private sector and the public sector, if we were to do this voucher thing, is to require and mandate the private sector to continue to have school psychologists, special educators, paraprofessionals, OT, speech, you name it. They would have to have ESL teachers. They would have to have homeless coordinators. I mean, they don't, the private schools don't have to have that. And so they will be able to reject any student they want. And so the cheaper students they'll take, but the more expensive students they won't. And I also have my reservations about my tax money going to religious schools, because I'm not a religious person, and I have a lot of doubt about how that would be lawful. So anyway, I guess that's all. Thank you.
And then Saeed Asif. Go ahead, Betsy.
Okay. Hi, my name is Betsy Luchai, and I live at 2743 Durham Road. I have 2 children at Red Smith School, and I'm very happy with their education there. I have serious issues with the vouchers being presented in the state budget. First of all, I think it's a poor choice for our district. I think choice being the key word. Vouchers being in the state budget for Green Bay give our citizens no voice or choice whether this is the best option for our district. I think that the voucher program is not fiscally responsible. My family and my property taxes run about $3,200 per year. Our Wisconsin income taxes run probably about $4,000 per year. My family would qualify for vouchers. We would pull $12,800 out of the state budget just for my children to attend a voucher or private school. I think this would raise taxes in our district, and I think it would cause a severe budget deficit for our schools that would be lost on the backs of our children's education. I think another reason I don't like this is that without the voucher money going to private schools, they are not held with the same accountability as a public school. Therefore, they are not held to the same standards. Having these standards costs money, so they can get around all the extra testing and all the extra things they need without having to come up with the extra money. But thank you for listening.
Then Sarah Obernader. Go ahead, Saeed.
Am I next?
No, you're next, yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Saeed Asif. I reside at 746 South Quincy. Thank you for having this forum. I came here to appeal to all of you to consider this debate on its merits and not on misinformation. The email that was sent from all of you with many of your signatures on it really was a dereliction of duty, because you misrepresented information, factually incorrect information. Now, let's, in order to engage us in a more logical analysis of this issue, I, on my own dime, have partnered with Democrats for Education Reform, and I'm sponsoring in 2 weeks from now a meeting at St. Norbert College that I invite all of you to come and listen. Listen to the data. Let's make our decisions not based on incorrect facts, but on real facts. Our public school system has successes, undoubtedly, but it has significant failures. How can all of you accept the minority graduation rate, accept the graduation rate for African Americans in our community, accept the graduation rate for Hispanics in our community, and say we have a stellar system? The Department of Education, this is something out of the Department of Education, a very interesting graph that has caught my attention. From 1983 to the present, per capita student expenditure, K through 12 in the United States, has gone up more than 2.5-fold in inflation adjusted, real dollars. During that same period, our math scores have stayed the same, our reading scores have stayed the same. ACT now did a study that showed that the great majority of our high school graduates aren't prepared to take a college entry-level class in math and science. Okay, this isn't. Our interests are the same here. The children we're educating are our future. You guys are. If we go based on the misinformation that you guys have put in that email, we're going to create the next data point. The next data point that is higher spending and the same test scores. Let's not have that. Let's work together and make policy based on actual facts rather than the misinformation that you've passed. I challenge you to go back and look at the data that you've sent and send an email that corrects it. And I'd be happy to meet with you in private to show you how you have totally misrepresented the effect of the voucher system on the taxation in this community. It is totally a misrepresentation. and I will be happy to go through it with you offline. And I challenge you that if I convince you that is true, if I can show you that is true, that you send an email and retract the misinformation that you passed to the members of this community, because they're going to make their decision, and they're going to make up their minds based on your misinformation, and that is a dereliction of all your duties.
Just wanted to make a point. Mr. Wagner, our Chief Financial Officer, will be following up with that so that we have a good conversation.
And then Eric Bertod. Go ahead, Sarah.
Excuse me, my name's Sarah Obernetter. I live at 2167 South Point Road here in Green Bay. I have two kids that currently attend King Elementary, and will have a third there in another year. I'm also a teacher in this district. I had not planned on speaking tonight, but upon hearing all these stories, I felt compelled to share my own story. I first started my teaching career here in Green Bay in the late 90s, and I remember hearing at New Teacher Orientation some of the veteran teachers share some information with us, stating that this was the only district that they had ever worked in and they wouldn't go anywhere else. I didn't realize at the time how unusual that statement truly was. Shortly after starting here in Green Bay, my boyfriend proposed, and within the following year I was married and had moved to the southern part of the state. I worked in 3 different districts during my time there and was a member of a committee that met with DPI. Every district that I interacted with was excited to know that I had worked in Green Bay because they wanted to be like this district. They thought that maybe I could offer some insight. I knew at some point I wanted to return here and finish my career in this district. 5 years ago, when my eldest child was school age, my husband and I decided that we needed to get our kids into the best schools. I didn't realize what a challenge that would be as a public school employee to really weed through the best schools. I applied for a job back here in the Green Bay schools and was thrilled to be offered the position. I would not have decided to move my family nearly 120 miles to enroll them in failing schools. Despite what media reports, these schools continue to excel, and my kids and my colleagues are living proof of that.
And then Matt Bertod, I think. Sorry, I'm probably not saying that right.
Bertot, but close enough.
Okay.
My name is Eric Bertot. I live at 309 South Webster Avenue. I'd like to address my personal experience with hacking funding for public schools versus some other options towards fixing budget. I grew up in the California school system. I was the first graduating class where middle schools were eliminated and high school went from 8th grade until 12th grade. The things that a 13-year-old can be exposed to in high school, I'm sure you'll all agree, they should not be exposed to. California used to have one of the finest public school systems in the country. When their public school system got hacked from funding, they plummeted. Along with the elimination of several vocational programs and programs for students comes an increase in gang activity and gang violence. It's a no-brainer. I brought my daughter here from California. The high ranking of Wisconsin public schools nationwide was a selling point for me towards bringing her to Wisconsin from California. At the time, their schools ranked, I believe, 7th nationwide, and Green Bay area public schools ranked 5th within the state of Wisconsin, which puts them pretty darn high nationwide. My daughter's experience at Preble High School was extremely positive. She was able to start her CNA career actually in high school as a high school student and is currently a CNA at Belen Hospital right now. She was a member of the Pom and Dance team. Edison Middle School is one of the finest schools I have ever been to in my life. They actually have a full graphics department with a press and everything there. You can kiss a lot of these things goodbye if you hack the public funding for public schools. I think any political doctrine that would hack funding for public schools to fix a budget deficit rather than increase taxes on people who can afford it is shameful. And if you want to use the recent grading of public schools, and they've revamped how those are graded, if you're going to use it as an arguing point, realize that this is after 2 years of funding being hacked under Governor Walker. I think this is shameful. There should be no hacking to funding for public schools, especially to such a fine public school system as we have here in Green Bay. I disagree with anybody that would say that the public schools here are poor. If you look at their ranking nationwide, I think that is absolutely false. Thank you very much.
Benita Moore, and then go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, hi, I'm Matt Berteau. I live at 901 South Greenwood. You just heard my brother speak. I'm here in opposition to the expansion of the voucher program on one simple point, that you are taking taxpayers' dollars, public funds, and diverting those into private institutions, which are for-profits. I don't agree with it, and I think it's been shown in other states in the country that those funds get sent to private schools, many of which teach intelligent design and creationism as science, which is a total farce on natural science and physics. There's a thing in this country called separation of church and state, and I think that the public funds need to stay with the public school districts and not be packaged up in vouchers and sent to private schools. Thank you.
And then Paul Olexi. Go ahead. Go ahead, Benita.
Sorry, I'm nervous. Anyways, I have 4 children. I have 3 of them that are at Chapel Elementary School. One of them who is attending there for their special education. My child deserves the great education, the special needs that he needs, or he's getting there. One of my sons not even be able to go to a public school because of the special education. He's getting at Chapel. The teachers there are great. Awesome. I would not change it for the world. I had special education from K to 12th grade at East Pier High School and through the De Pere school system. Teachers there at Chapel are awesome. Like I said, I wouldn't change it. They're great. He's getting it, the education he needs. And if it's not right, the funding education should be cut for the vouchers so they could be used. Oh, and Brian, I hate to tell you, it's Chapel Elementary that's the elementary school for the IB program. Sorry. Anyways, I strongly believe that the budgets get cut and the vouchers are for the low-income families here in Green Bay. All the children that do get special needs, they won't have the education that they need and will not become what they dream of becoming in the future. What they dream of being, don't take that away from them. And with you doing this, you are saying everybody's meaning congressmen, policemen, women, teachers, lawyers, and etc. They are going to retire. Who's going to take over their positions? With the low-income families, there's people. I have 2 children who want to become construction workers, policemen. And if they go to a private school, they're not going to get the education that they need. With the teachers that they have there at Chapel, they're jumping up so high in their education. Don't take that away from them. They're able to succeed in the education to become what they dream of being. Thanks.
Then I have one more form that's been filled out. I will call at the end. If there's anyone who would like to speak that has not filled out a form, you can speak and then fill out the form afterward. Go ahead, Paul.
Hi, I wasn't expecting to speak this evening, but it just happened to work out. And how cool is it to see so many people that feel so powerfully about education, all speaking their minds. It's great to see. My name's Paul Olexi. I live at 1235 Porlier Street. Both my daughters have spent their entire educational careers in the public schools on the east side of Green Bay. And I've been, without exception, pleased and astounded at the experiences they've had and the quality, without exception, of staff that they've encountered from kindergarten all the way through high school, where one is now and one is in middle school. But I also wanted to speak that while I was a stay-at-home dad, I had a part-time job teaching at a parochial school. And all this time I've observed differences between these schools. And a lot of the points that I came here wanting to make have been made already very well by a lot of speakers, but the standards that are held are not able to be fairly compared. The problems and the challenges and the exceptional experiences that can be had in the public school system, that diversity is far narrower in a private school because of the homogeneity of the folks that attend there. A private school, I feel, is by definition a filter, and you end up with people of generally the same motivations, often the same socioeconomic background and family backgrounds. And that tends to make things a lot easier to manage because you don't have all of the diversity that you see in the Green Bay school system. Well, that's one feature I feel very strongly about that I'm glad my kids had the opportunity to experience, because they've seen kids from all different backgrounds and they've had to learn how to get along and to understand things that would be really hard for me to provide for them if they just lived in our neighborhood and went to a private school where most of the kids were like them. So there's a lot of great things about the public school system, and I really hope that the plan to expand the voucher system does not include Green Bay. Thanks.
Then Julie Arnath.
Julie Arnath, 2279 Mount Olive Drive, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I'm a retired Green Bay Public School teacher and a substitute teacher in the district. But I'm also a member of the League of Women Voters of Greater Green Bay Board. And I would like to say that the League of Women Voters of Green Bay supports a system of strong elementary and secondary education. We support a system of school choice within the public school system, but one which does not include any tax dollars being given to private or religious schools. Thank you.
That's all the speakers I have forms for. Is there anyone else who would like to speak before the board? You can come on up.
Hello. My name's Wade Eggers. I live at 3840 Church Road in town of Scott, Green Bay School District. And I've done a lot of research on this, both online and reading other reports about the voucher system. And the way it stands right now, it sounds like everyone's going to get the same education. Maybe this year, maybe next year. But in 20 or 30 years, when you start mixing public funds with private funds, it's a pretty slippery slope to the day when the more money you have to add to your vouchers, the better school you'll be able to attend. And if you're a private institution, you can take the voucher and you can take private funds as well. And our public institutions are, at that point, would only be degraded to a point to where no one wants to attend a public school, and you've created another class division within our society. I mean, this has been a goal of a lot of people for a long time, to privatize the whole educational system, much like you had the caste system back in England and other parts of Europe. If we stay on this slope, where you keep taking funds and you keep supporting and trying to divide up what kind of funds different families are allowed to educate their children, it could be really bad in about 20 or 30 years, because now you have rich schools and you have poor schools. You have, if you can afford a good education, you get a better education. But those children who cannot afford and who are born not into wealth, those children will be stuck in the poorly reputed local public school, and they'll have a bad reputation. Right now our schools are fantastic. My kids go to Red Smith, and they get twice the education I got. I ended up a very successful businessman, the president of a small corporation. My kids went to school out in Arizona. It was not a very good school out there in Tucson, but it was the best one around. It was a public school, and they're now engineers. One's a top software engineer for Google, living in Europe and speaks 3 languages. The other one works in Germany. She's an executive accountant for BASF, largest corporation, one of the largest corporations in the world. My son's a Boeing tech rep, and they all have degrees, and they're all very successful people. This was through they all went to common public education. So mom and dad read to them on occasion, but and we got involved. But it still, if the public education, there's nothing wrong with public schools. There might be something wrong with the community or the parents, but there's nothing wrong with the schools, and especially Green Bay. Thank you.
Is there, oh.
I'm going to go ahead and provide the translation. Go ahead.
Oralia Torres, 1545, Capitol Drive, Green Bay.
1545 Capitol Drive, Green Bay. Oralia Torres.
Simplemente no es justo ayudar a las personas que
Simply it's
asisten a
just
una
not
escuela
fair
privada.
to help the students or the families who would like to attend a private school.
¿Qué pasa con los niños que asisten a escuelas públicas?
What happens with the children that attend our public schools?
Hagamos las cuentas y cuántas escuelas públicas hay en Green Bay.
Let's go ahead and ratify the numbers and see how many public schools are in Green Bay.
Si tú escoges ir a una escuela pública, privada es porque la puedes pagar.
If you choose to go to a private school instead of staying on the public school system, it's because you can afford it.
Si tú asistes a una escuela pública, es porque no puedes pagar una escuela privada.
If you attend a public school, it's because you cannot really afford to go to a private sector.
Si les están dando dinero a las escuelas privadas, ¿por qué no les dan este dinero a las escuelas públicas si es que dicen que tanto lo necesitan?
If they have money in order to make contributions to private schools, how come they don't use the same funds to help the public school system who's so desperately needs it?
Si es verdad que necesitamos el dinero en las escuelas públicas, pongamos el dinero en las escuelas públicas.
If it's really true that we need the money within our public system, let's keep the money where it belongs, right in our public district. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Bob Cook. I live at 2703 Nicolay Drive here in the city of Green Bay. I didn't really plan on speaking here tonight, so my prepared remarks consist of about 4, short sentences, or not even that. I have a kind of a different perspective. We have 4 children. 2 of them went through parochial schools here in the city of Green Bay, graduated from St. Joseph's Academy. The other 2, the boys, when we moved to Texas and then came back to Green Bay, came back to Wisconsin, ended up in public schools and graduated from public schools in the city of Sheboygan. All 4 of them have master's degrees. Oddly enough, the one boy who graduated from Sheboygan North is pursuing the PhD in mechanical engineering. My concern is that when you start taking funds away from public schools and giving them to private schools, you are going to be diluting the education of a majority of the Americans, of students here in the city of Green Bay. My wife and I made a choice with respect to sending our 2 children, the 2 girls, to St. Joseph's Academy and to other parochial schools. It was because we felt that the Christian education was very important. I did not ask, as one of the other speakers said, for anybody in the city of Green Bay or the state of Wisconsin to assist me in paying the tuition that I paid for those children, both at the elementary school they attended in De Pere, where we lived at the time, or at St. Joseph's Academy. And I don't think it's fair for people whose children are going to parochial schools to ask me and other people in the state of Wisconsin to help pay the tuition for their kids. With respect to this idea of failing schools, I think if you look at the statistics On a state-by-state basis, Wisconsin stacks up very well. I spent my first 4 years teaching in the great state of Texas. I will be happy to discuss with anybody the state of public school system in the state of Texas. We moved back to the state of Wisconsin because of the public school systems in Texas and the public school systems here in Wisconsin. If you look at nationally normed or internationally normed tests, the one of which everybody seems to love is the International Math and Science Test, also known as TIMSS. The last TIMSS statistics I saw, and I have seen nothing to indicate to me that they've changed, if Wisconsin were a country, we would be 6th in the world. Now, if that's a failing school system, I'd like to see one that is not. Certainly we'd love to be number 1, but we're not failing. With respect to Finland, all I can tell you is this: in Finland, in order to teach, you must have a master's degree. The Finnish government pays for it, and your salary is equal to that of all the physicians and lawyers in the country. And I know my time is up, but I'm sure that any of the teachers here would be happy to take that sort of a salary from the Green Bay Public Schools. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Go ahead.
Like most of the rest of the people, I didn't plan on speaking this evening, but or the latest people. My name is Kirk Foote. I live at 1126 Chicago Street on the east side of Green Bay. Children that attend Howell Elementary School and a child that attended East High School. There's a lot to be said, a lot to be listened to in this conversation, and a lot that's been said today that I would echo in opposition to the voucher program. So I will just point out a couple things. First of all, as a member of this community, it's bad protocol to have folks from the outside telling us what we want in our community. I think if you're a community developer, someone that desires to do well in the community, there's a lot of value to listening to the community. And so tonight's opportunity to listen to our community, there's been an overwhelming response and opposition to this. And so I would just, I have a lot of concern about a lot of the money from outside of our community, outside of our state that are funding this conversation. And so for us, as members of this community, I'm not excited about that external part coming in. I'm also concerned about the possible long-term social ramifications of this kind of conversation, of taking resources out of a community. It seems like historically, looking at my study of data and my study of sociology and just kind of the way things have worked in the last 50 years, specifically after the Civil Rights Movement, I'm concerned about taking resources out of neighborhoods. It seems like when you create concentrations of poverty, a lot of that is coming from educational resources being taken from a community, and concentrations of poverty never tend to create positive outcomes. And so I'd like to see less resource taken from my community and more resources put into my community. And I feel like this proposal that's being taken, again, from an external source is not something that's helping the long-term health of my community. So thank you for this opportunity to share publicly in our community this entire forum, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Go ahead.
My name is Nancy Schultz. I live at 810 Neufeld Street in Green Bay, and I'm proud to say that I, for the past 17 years, have been a principal in the Green Bay Area Public Schools. It's been a wonderful experience, and I want to tell you a little bit about the staff that comes to school every day and gives 150%. They give their lunch time, they give their time before school, they give their time after school. They mentor children who need that extra boost. We love our children. Our schools are not failing. We offer wonderful choices, and it spans the gamut. So if people want choice, look around. You have many choices. And I want to thank you as a board for continuing to support this customization of education. Thank you.
Go ahead. Come on up.
My name is Kathleen Urbach. I live at 1125 South Jackson Street, and my children graduated from East High School. They went to Washington and Howe a long time ago. But I have a bumper sticker on my car. It says, "I believe in public education." And I'm here to support this school board in their effort to keep public education public. We do not need to support private schools. They're fine to be here, but we should not be taking our public dollars for them. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I really did not plan on speaking at all tonight. My name is Doreen Trombley. I live at 1771 Aspen Lane here in Green Bay. I have a child who attends Kennedy Elementary, and I also have a stepdaughter who attends Howard School. I just have one statement to make, and that is they should not change something that is not broken. They do not need to take any funding from public schools or anything. They are running perfectly fine. Our teachers are 100% committed, and not only are they committed, what they're doing for our kids today is also reflecting on the community that we have, and I think Green Bay as a community is wonderful. Parents who choose to send their kids to a private school need to understand that it's a choice that they're making, and by making it, they're saying that they can afford it. I went to private school in O'Connell Falls at St. Anthony's when I was younger. I ended up graduating from O'Connell Falls High School, and they also have a great school system. And to take away from public schools that work so hard to get where they are with the little funding that they already have, it's just wrong. I am a strong believer that the public schools should not be messed with unless it's to improve it. If they're looking to give money anywhere, give it to the ones that work the hardest, which is the public school district.
Was there another? I think I saw someone else, yeah, with your hand up.
I'm Dave Kamsher, 390 Wesley Street. I live a block and a half from Preble High School. My daughter graduated in 2010 from East. We have choice. She went to Preble her freshman year. It didn't work out. It wasn't a good fit. So she went to East. We have very good friends who live in the southwest area. They send their son to Ashwaubenon. They send their daughter to private school. That's their choice. Choice already exists. The only way that we should be able to give public dollars to private schools is if they're held to the same accountability, the same standards, if they have to accept everybody the same as the public schools do. If the playing field were level, that might be a different situation, but the playing field is not level. And people have choice, they just have to exercise it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll officially close our open forum. I want to thank everybody for coming and for speaking and for listening. It was the speakers were all very eloquent, and thank you. And we always say at the end of our open forum, you're welcome to stay for the rest of our board meeting.
Yeah, it's been swell. I think we need a 5-minute break.
Before roll call, is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
We'll take a 5-minute break and then come back at...
Is Michelle
continue.
coming?
Yeah, she's coming. There she is.
I sat down first.
Next on our agenda is roll call.
Jeffries?
Here.
Franz? Here. Warren?
Here.
Leitner?
Here.
Blackout?
Here.
Maloney?
Here.
Stecker?
Here.
Franco?
Here.
Final? Here.
All 7 board members are present. We're also joined at the table by 2 intercity student council members, Katie Fineout from East and Jessica Franco from Preble. And to my left is Dr. Michelle Langenfeld, our superintendent, and Sandy Heller, our board assistant. We have minutes to approve. Regular board meeting, February 25th, 2013. Special board meeting, March 1st, 2013. Special board meeting, closed sessions, March 1st. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and then communications. We have no communications to be placed on file this month. Next, we'll move to building focus updates, which will be facilitated by Celestine Jeffries.
Thank you, Brenda. So we're going to have a report from Barb Dorff and Al Banky about school safety and security. If you would come forward.
How come she has more binders than you do?
I wanted to impress you with some of the research here. So, and there's been a lot of research that's gone into this report. But Al has suggested that we just simply quickly go through the report, and then we will be open to questions.
Okay.
We will be having a multimedia presentation partway through the report.
Is it the video that you had included in our?
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so, all right, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right. So, as you have read, this school security presentation was prompted in part by what happened at Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut. And we are always very aware. Oh, my goodness sakes. I am very aware, but I forgot one thing. We have some guests here tonight, and they are here behind me, and they are here to support school security, and they are mentioned in the report. So I'd like all the social workers, first social workers and counselors, to stand up. Thank you for coming.
Overwhelming force.
And I would like the members of the Green Bay Police Department to stand up, SROs, and we have a captain and a lieutenant here, maybe even more than one lieutenant, I think just one. But yes, thank you for coming. So, to go on with the report, the history, as you have read, we have a lot of very formal security procedures. Our binder currently looks like this, and I brought my binder because I wanted you to see that it's not something that just sits on the shelf. This is something that's used and added to, and notes are taken, and this is something that is reviewed on an ongoing basis. So that's what the school security plan looks like, and each building has one of these, or more. Each administrator has one.
And the first part of the report, summarizes the things that we have put in place. So you can go through those. We're going to just go through those real briefly, but you can go through, the things that we have in place, the camera systems, a lot of the stuff that was supported in the 2009 referendum, just kind of summarizing, the security report that we did back then and the status of those initiatives have been completed. So that kind of summarizes the first part of the report.
And that would be, there's a chart right in there. Just a couple things that we didn't manage to put into place yet would be increasing the number of school resource officers from 10 to 14 and providing all the schools with an AED. We haven't had the budgetary funding to be able to do those things yet. Then, as Al said, there's the status of the current district physical security measures, and this is the part of the report that you wrote. Do you have any comments on that?
Correct. Well, and one of the things that the gentleman pointed out earlier is the fact that they can just walk into the building. If you remember, back in 2009, the recommendation was for us to remodel offices and provide access to the building office, but secure the vestibule. So, for example, at Howe, they can come into the building and they're forced to come to the office. They can't go to the rest of the building. That was the security recommendations we had at the time, and quite honestly, nationally, that's really what the recommendations were at the time. as you can see later on in the report, that has changed, and we're recommending some changes. So.
But I think it's important to note that Howe is currently doing the practice that the district did put in place. They're not doing anything that they shouldn't be doing right now. Okay. The current reality, or I'm sorry, the status of the current student services initiatives, I want to just mention a little bit because I think we try to focus on safe schools from the inside out. It's not all about just the security measures and what we would do in the event of an intruder. What are the things that we're currently doing to ensure that things don't happen like the bullying? The NetSmarts is a program that we use, the counselors use that, and the SROs use that to prevent cyberbullying. And that's on page 6 would be a good page for you to go to, Amanda. I know, because I'm going really fast, because I'm supposed to. All right, on page 6, it talks about that. And then building relationships with all students, making sure that all staff have that responsibility, not just the counselors and social workers and school psychs and administrators, but all staff. But the counselors and the social workers are there to give that added support to building those relationships. The plot to attack East High School was foiled because a student came forward, had a relationship with his school resource officer who wasn't there at that moment, but then went next to the associate principal and told that associate principal what was being planned. And that's because there were those relationships that had been established. Another important piece is that the Safe and Supportive Schools grant and our Office of Justice grants at the 4 high schools and Franklin middle schools fund social workers so they can focus more on doing kind of the wraparound with students. And with the Safe and Supportive Schools grant, it's the out-of-school suspension, trying to bring those numbers down because a few of the incidents that have happened in school shootings have been while the student has been on suspension or has been expelled from school. So that is one of the other warning signs that in the Secret Service report is mentioned. So we have something in place where we're trying to decrease out-of-school suspensions and do something else instead. So the next portion on page 6 is our current reality and the steps taken since December 14th. And we've done a lot of things. I think most importantly, Al and I have been to a number of professional learnings, the National School Safety Conference, and I went to the training called ALICE training that you hear a little bit more about later on in the report down in Madison. Our SROs went and school administrators also went to that training. And so that brings us, unless you have anything else to say, to our recommendations.
And I think it was important that...
the ALICE training?
We're going to talk about the ALICE training.
Okay. If you're using acronyms, you have to tell us what the acronyms are. Because
I will. So when I get to
like
number
AED
3,
and
it's...
that stuff. Just kind of the acronym police here, Barb. So.
You very good. And I will tell you that because it's right.
Alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate.
Yes.
Evacuate. That's what ALICE stands for.
Right. Recommendation 3, and we'll get to that.
And again, to the point where we're at right now, we just really want to summarize what we've done and what the things that we have in place, both on the physical side and on the student services side. So.
Okay. All right. Recommendation 1 is to implement the run, hide, fight options for an armed intruder incident in the building situation. This is, we would like to show you the short video that's put down.
Before you do, I just want, because this is being videotaped, I just want to let people know that this is a reenactment, a dramatization of sorts. There is someone who is in a Hollywood way being shot. This is not taking place in a school, but rather taking place in an office building.
Right, and this is the video that has been put out by Homeland Security, and it was shown to both of us at the National School Security Conference, and it was also shown in Madison. It was referenced. I was recently in Wrightstown. I was invited to the tabletop exercise, the school shooting exercise in Wrightstown, and it was also referenced there. In Brown County, emergency management is very much encouraging this approach in Brown County.
And so they're encouraging the approach in Brown County in schools?
State and nationwide.
State and nationwide in schools.
In schools.
Yes, Brown County was at the tabletop. This was at Wrightstown High School, and they are encouraging that. So well, I'd like you to watch it with our studio audience, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yes.
I watched the video at home, and if you could, I mean, the video is all adults, and
Yes.
so I had a hard time figuring out
Yes.
what our children should or should not be doing in these particular situations. So
And that's what we thought. We would talk about that because it is a major paradigm shift from what we have been doing. So did you want me to do that first? Or did you want to put it in context? How would you like it to go?
Well, I mean, here, I think what, and that was my sticking point too. The run, hide, fight. Okay, so currently we have students who, if there's an intruder situation, that they go into the classrooms and hide. The running situation actually ended up being, although the students ran, I think, without the teacher saying that you should run, that ended up being a situation in Sandy Hook.
In some cases. In some
Yes,
cases
it
there
did.
was lockdown,
It
and in
did.
some cases
That's right.
there was running.
And the fight part is the part that I had the most difficulty with.
Okay.
It's unclear to me how our elementary school students or even our high school students are going to implement that. And it's unclear to me as well how teachers who are responsible for other people, in this video, these adults are responsible for themselves. Teachers are responsible for minors. And so it's unclear to me how that translates. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was feeling uncomfortable about it. So perhaps we could talk about that first before you show the video.
Sure. I think through the training that we have received, and although this is a major paradigm shift that we're bringing forward right now, it is not the first time it's been introduced in Green Bay. 2 years ago, in 2011, I had some speakers come in and do professional learning with teachers at Weston at Preble to share this same. It wasn't called Run, Hide, Fight, but that's basically what we were talking about. And what we found when you look back at the situations that have occurred, and I'll talk about 2 of them in particular, which I had mentioned in the report, but I want to emphasize them. In Columbine, I have been in situations. I was at the Columbine, I guess you'd call it the debriefing. I heard the 911 calls. And then Al and I both heard some of that at the national conference. Once again, I heard it at the training in Madison. You hear it's 4 minutes into the situation, and there are children, students in the library with their teacher, and you hear the 911 call, the students saying, "Can we just leave? Can't we just leave?" There is an exit door in the library to the outside, and you hear the teacher saying what exactly she's been taught, which is, no, you stay under those tables, get down, stay under the tables. 4 minutes and 30 seconds or 4 minutes and 20 seconds into the shooting incident, they enter the library, where about 18 people are then shot and killed. So at that point, people start running out. Once the shooting starts, people start running out. Nobody did anything wrong. They did exactly what they were taught to do. Lockdown was accepted at that point. And if you look at the same situation in Virginia Tech, where we've got 5 rooms, and in 2 of the rooms, the shooter had very easy ingress into those rooms. He got into those rooms very easy, and there was a lot of mortality in those rooms. A lot of people were shot and were killed in those rooms. In another room, a Holocaust survivor put his body in front of that door, the professor did, and he was killed. It was a 2nd floor room, and his students jumped out the windows. And there were some ankle injuries and some leg injuries. And their students were not killed in that room. In another room, the first time the shooter got in, 2 people were shot. He went on to the next room. The second time, they had barricaded the door, mostly with their bodies and with some desks. And it wasn't easy for him to get in. So then, no, he didn't get in. He went on to the next door. What we learn is that time and distance are the things that make the difference. Once the responders are on the scene, once the police get there and breach, in most cases, there's going to be A couple of things that are going to happen. 40% of the time, the shooter is going to commit suicide. 46% of the time, well, the shooter will have been taken down. Probably not by the responders, because they will get there too late, and they have gotten there too late in every instance, except that when they do get there, we learn that it's about power and control. That person wants the power and wants the control, and that control is then being taken away because the responders, they hear the sirens, they hear the breach, and so then they make other decisions, and usually the incident will end. About 14% of the time, there's a surrender, but the other 86% of the time, there isn't. The person is taken out by the people in the situation or by the responders. So we've learned in these situations that to do nothing, the police, when they are shooting at suspects, we have learned 20 to 30%, well, about 20 to 30% hit rate. In a school shooting, there's over 80% of a hit rate. Why? Because are they better trained than the police? No, that's not it at all. It's because they're shooting at stationary targets, because that's what we've taught. That's what we thought was the right thing to teach. And guess what? It still saves lives. It doesn't mean you throw away lockdown completely. Police, when they are shooting, are usually shooting at a moving target or at least someone offering some resistance. And so the rate is lower. And I've heard that at the National Convention. I heard that at the SRO training in Madison. So it's not that they're not good at shooting, but you're shooting at, you know, a target that's moving around. It's a lot different than people huddled in a corner. So I think we've learned some important lessons. And again, it's not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't throw away lockdowns altogether. But what we have to do is teach our staff that there are options: the barricade option, the run option, the hide and the fight.
And as a last resort, the fight option. Again, the vast majority of our times, we're going to be practicing the lockdown, practicing the hide in the classroom. But when those situations occur, the last thing that you want to be is a sitting target. And our practices are changing very similarly to the way law enforcement used to wait until the response was you wait, you get a team, you go into the building as a team. That doesn't happen anymore. They learned when you get the first officer on the scene, they're going in. So our practices and our procedures are changing as well.
It's so unfortunate that there have been enough school shootings now for us to have had to learn from them. And there are some things that we have learned. And so that is the context in which I would like to offer the video. And then to talk about how that professional learning needs to be done within the buildings, because that's going to be a really big piece of learning how to change.
Okay. All that beautiful bead footage.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference: run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, Do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
If you would look at Appendix 3, Amanda, this is posted at Notre Dame Academy on all the classroom walls, this appendix on the active shooter. They've had some talks in the last few months about this, and this is a response that is used at Notre Dame Academy in town here, and it's something that we will be recommending. But this also kind of repeats what the video just talked about getting out, calling out, hiding out, keeping out, and taking out, and then what you expect from the responding officers. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that appendix. I'm going to skip recommendation 2 for just a second because recommendation 3 more closely.
Celestine, can we
Yes.
address this first?
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead,
sure.
Mike. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see.
In our schools, our SROs are armed, which I fully support, and I think that relationship with the police has worked out well. I was at a National School Board Association conference in Washington, D.C. last month where we had a presentation by the executive director of the Connecticut School Board Association and how they have all addressed the shooting at Sandy Hook. And one of the things he said, arming teachers, quote, scares the hell out of me. Watching this video, will this give advocates of arming teachers, principals, and volunteers, will this give them ammunition to their proposal to say, well, you know what, if they all had guns, then that shooter would have been taken down? I guess that's the thing, I guess, that bothers me about that, because there's South Dakota just passed a law saying, you know, you ought to arm teachers and volunteers. I think it's a horrible idea, but I just wonder if this approach provides those people with saying, yeah, look at that, why don't you arm more people in your schools?
That certainly is not one of our recommendations at all.
Yeah, and the thing is, the run and fight are the least of the options, and fight in particular, the least option. But again, to give alternatives, if you're stuck in a room and somebody's going to come into the room, to have a fire extinguisher like the person did to try and take the guy out, that really is your last option. Your first is to hide, like we have traditionally done, but it's really providing some alternatives to be having people think on their feet, you know, situational, and give them things that they can practice and think about. Not necessarily do, because it would be extremely difficult to do in a high school or middle school, you know, for kids to run and fight. But again, at least have that discussion so that we're not always sitting there as. But
we need to make it very clear, because some people there are people saying, yeah, you know what, if that teacher had a gun, you know, I don't think I've ever talked to a teacher or principal who wants to be armed. So I just want it, and I know you're not recommending that, but I just want this board to make it very clear that we're not going down that road.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michelle. I just think when you think of what happened at Sandy Hook and the children were all stationary, I think that's the piece when I can see great merit for run and have exit plans in classrooms if there's opportunity. I mean, that's the piece that I see. It's like a fire route in a house, that you would think about that, so that if we have to, you know, sometimes it's best and you won't have time to do anything but hide and stay quiet. But other times there may be that. The fight part is concerning to me from the perspective that I grew up with sons, and at 6, 7, and 8 they thought they could take on the world, and they, you know, still one thinks he can, but you know what I'm talking about. They're superheroes sometimes in their own minds, and that would be a fear that I would have, is that we have to make sure that we, you know, the kids know that, you know, the fighting part would only be if the teacher says. I mean, those are the kind of thing that would scare me the most, because there are kids that would see themselves in that role, and Alex wore a cape forever, you know, and he still does it as him.
I think that's why, with the recommendation 3 of getting the ALICE training, which stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate, that's why this piece is here. Because we can't just do this, we can't just say it. We need people trained as trainers to be in the buildings and to be showing the rest of the teachers in the buildings, the rest of the staff, exactly what it is that we're talking about. And so I was at the day of the introduction to the ALICE training, and it was, I think there possibly Rod Dubois was there, was in the audience a little while ago, and we had administrators there, and we had other SROs there, and the training will provide people the ability to think through what are their options. I particularly like the emphasis they put on barricading, because I think that barricading, if you're behind a really sturdy door and you barricade that door, then that's a much better option even than fleeing, because you are probably going to be a lot safer. Lights out, barricade. We haven't taught barricading. No one's even thought about barricading. These are all things you just want to plant the ideas. So this is the training that I would recommend, and the way I thought we could do it. And it's $15,000 to $20,000 for two-day sessions, and you can have up to 60 people in those sessions. So if we trained 40 people in one session and 40 in another from our buildings, and then offered those spots out to other school districts in the area, smaller school districts that couldn't afford to bring it in, we could recoup some of that investment and maybe $200, $250 per person to come in so that they could get the training too. I was out at Howard Swamco 2 weeks ago. They were very interested in Alice training and Run, Hide, Fight. I've had Ashwaubenon has come in. Marinette has called me. Superintendent from Kewanee, I think it's Kewanee, has contacted me. I mean, other superintendents, other districts are very interested in this kind of training. This is a national movement to provide options so that it's not just doing one thing, which is turn off the lights and hide in the corner. It's saying there could be options, but you have to think about those options.
And that's been reinforced time and time again in different conferences, and national speakers and security experts that we have listened to have repeated time and time again.
I think going back to recommendation 2, though, one thing we do want to do is change that current language for lockdowns and replace the lockdowns level 1, 2, and 3 with secure the building outside threat, secure the building internal situation, or secure your room's internal situation, and then lockdown would be saved for an intruder in the building. But the secure your room internal situation could be if a child is having a medical emergency, or sometimes we have lost children inside the building. They go hide somewhere. And so you secure the room, you keep all the other children in the rooms so that you can find more easily the child that's not where he or she is supposed to be. And we've called that lockdown. And I think that word gets to be a little dramatic. And I don't think we need that kind of drama, because lockdowns aren't necessarily because there is a serious intruder situation. It could be a medical emergency. So that is one thing we would like to work on doing over the course of the next year, is changing some of our terminology and going to these this different language. Again, something we learned at the national conference, something we didn't think about by ourselves. Recommendation 4 was to update this. This is in all the rooms. We need to update this every once in a while, so we use that new language in updating our crisis management plans in the building. Recommendation 5, definitely to revise this manual completely. It's been a number of years since this has been overhauled completely, and there are some things that we definitely need to change. We just need the time to do it. Reunification, that's what I've got taped to the top cover. We need some better reunification procedures in our district. We know that we have evacuation sites, but sometimes the evacuation site is not the best place to reunify. When you have an evacuation site and you've got your whole school inside of a church, for example, there might not be enough room for parents to come in an orderly manner and get the children. So we need to think, are there other sites that we can bus the children to that the parents could then pick up their children after an event? So there are some things we need to do around reunification. We could be doing that better. The after-school extended learning security advisory committee, definitely a request from the Y and the Boys and Girls Club, the clubs that are in our schools after the school day. What happens if there is a threat situation at that time? What procedure should they follow? So we want to get an advisory team. It's different. There isn't that security at the front door at that time. So we need to think about what can we do to keep them feeling more secure. I think number 7 is really important, and I'm really sad to tell you that our grant proposal was not funded. Hopefully this is something we can do in the future, but recommendation 7 was to research and choose a mental health screener for adolescents and to replicate the responder program, so that, because a lot of these school shootings can be traced back, well, any mass shooting can be traced back to the mental health issues, and I think that President Obama has that out, at least he's outlined some possible funding for mental health. and for support for schools and looking at mental health. So we're going to be on point at looking at those opportunities if they come along. And those are some of the things we need to address, again, with Safe Schools from the inside out. What can we do to prevent this kind of thing from happening in the first place? And how can we be aware of what's going on with our students, and how can we help them? So but we won't give up. We won't give up. We'll keep trying to get a grant. Kim will, back there. And then recommendation number 8, I'm really excited about what I found out about this. To research and implement a threat assessment process. I found out that we can get this for no charge, and it's through the Department of Education. All we have to do is say that we will have 50 people in attendance at this training, and we can have threat assessment teams trained for each of our buildings, definitely at the secondary level and also at the elementary level. And we just have to ask for it, and they will schedule it. So I just have to get on their calendar, and that's a recommendation that we have, so that we can determine, this credibility, seriousness of threats, determine who in the buildings might be in a situation where they've suffered multiple losses, might be in a situation where they might be thinking about doing some violent activity. Those are the things that through the threat assessment training, we can get some people learning that. And I would be recommending administrators, social workers, counselors, and school psychologists to be the teams for the most part in the buildings. We're also looking at writing board policies. Al and I will be working on that. Hopefully have those for you in July or August. For recommendation number 9. Recommendation
number 10 is going back to the main entrance again and securing the vestibule. Really, one of the things that has moved in the last number of years is, when we did our renovations and we did the 2009 referendum and a lot of the office renovations that we've done, it was to secure the vestibule but provide that easy access to the office so that parents and visitors could get in, get out of the elements, deal with their business, and then typically head out. Really, that model has changed, and Sandy Hook has really pushed that to say, not only do we secure the vestibule, but we also secure the door to the office. So that's one of the recommendations that we're recommending as well. Secure the door to coming to the office and adding an intercom to that door as well. So the person will be able to come into the vestibule area, and then they would be able to talk to the receptionist and get, buzzed into the office.
It gives you that time to detect, because you want to delay someone from coming in. Then you want to be able to detect if there's anything going on that might be a little suspicious, and then it's just another level of deterrence before you let someone come into your building.
And we wouldn't remove any of the things that we've done already. We've got speakers on the outside of the door and locks on the outside of the door that can be remotely opened. We aren't going to remove any of that stuff. So if we go into a lockdown, we can actually secure the outside doors as well. So. Recommendation number 11 is to add additional cameras to the elementary schools. Our elementary schools have minimal cameras. There's some that have a little bit more than others, but there has been some requests from elementary buildings to have additional cameras put in place. So that's where recommendation number 11 comes in. Recommendation number 12, if the board remembers, part of the 2009 referendum was to replace all of the radios at the secondary schools. All the radios at secondary schools have been replaced. And at that time, before we replaced them, there was difficulty getting to the dispatch center. Now with new radios, secondary schools can talk directly to the dispatch center if necessary. And this recommendation would be to continue to replace radios at the elementary schools over the next couple of years. Recommendation number 13 is to reevaluate front door personnel positions in the secondary schools, just to make sure that we have the right qualifications, the right personnel in place to be able to handle, the front door, activities and expectations. Recommendation number 14 is to update the standardized visitors procedures, and
well, I think we also want to get all of our staff to the point where if they see anyone in the building at any time, they will be able to feel comfortable challenging them in a nice way. Can I help you? I see you don't have a badge on or a visitor sign on or whatever. And so that's part of the standardizing the visitor procedures, is to make sure that everyone in the building feels empowered to be able to make sure that the building is safe.
And a little different process at the front entrance as well. Rather than having the person sign themselves in, we're going to be requiring some form of identification unless the person would be recognized by school staff. So they would provide the front door person with their credentials. They would sign them in and hand them their visitor pass. It's a little bit more formalized than what we have right now. Right now in a lot of the buildings, the visitor themselves are able to sign in, and that's just not a good practice. Recommendation number 15 is to provide gun lockers at the secondary buildings. Again, this was something that we talked about a little bit in our last recommendations, and we did not institute it. But the one fear is if there is some kind of incident and the school resource officers are in the building, the worst thing that you can see on some camera is them running out of the building when there's activity in the building. We want to provide that secure place within the building for them to put their tools, whatever they are, in a secure area within our secondary schools.
And why would they be running out? They would be running out to get the larger gun that would be locked in their car because it's not in the school. When I was at the conference in Madison, about a third of the school districts represented already have the gun lockers in their high schools, and Howard Swamico in our area already has the gun locker already in their high school.
For use by the officers.
Correct.
Yes.
Strictly for the officers.
And you say a locker, but you're referring to something that probably
Like a
most people
safe?
think a gun safe in the office,
Yes.
not
correct
to create the confusion that we have a couple of padlock.
School.
Well,
You're right.
You're right.
You hear one or two. You take one or two words. The public may take one or two words away from some of these things, and we're talking about putting guns in lockers. So it's a gun safe.
Gun safe. You're absolutely correct.
In a secure area.
Correct. Absolutely.
Chris?
Al, would you walk me through, paint a picture of what it looks like at Howell right now and what it will look like with the recommendation?
Person comes in, the outside door is unlocked. Person comes into the vestibule area, cannot go beyond the vestibule area, has to go into the front office, and they are dealt with
A little slower for me.
Okay.
When they go in the vestibule area, what do they see? What access do they have?
The vestibule doors are in front of them and secured. They can't go beyond there. The only place that they can go is into the office where there's the unsecured door.
So there's a door then unsecured.
Into the office, okay? What we're suggesting, what we're recommending is that that door be secure as well and have some kind of communication device with the office personnel there. So again, like Barb said, so that they can have some kind of assessment. We're trying to slow them down a little bit. That really was not the model 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Like everything else, that has changed. You will be hearing secure the vestibule more and more across the state and across the country.
And it's really what the emails that I've been getting from parents and grandparents and the calls that I've been getting similar to Mr. Connor tonight is they want the door is locked. They want it locked. They don't want to just be able to get in.
Door yet.
Well,
in your scenario here. All right.
Well, and just as a before I answer that, Chris, and that really wasn't the case 3 years ago. People were more concerned about the inconvenience. This was an inconvenience.
Because it was raining.
Correct.
Or it was cold.
Correct. So, again, this has been a shift. And in particular, the Sandy Hook really drove that home.
So I'm still not following whether you're just locking the inside office door or the outside vestibule door.
Inside office door. You're securing the
But you're
vestibule.
still not locking the outside vestibule
Correct.
door.
Correct.
And the reason for that is?
To get people out of the elements and into a secure...
But all schools, and I can't say I can picture all the elementary schools, but most of them have canopies over the main door, do they not? So is that truly an issue?
Well, it was. I mean, it was an issue with the parents that were complaining about not being able to get in out of the cold, but I don't think it is anymore.
How long should it take for someone to get buzzed in if we have office staff? It should be
take a while.
Ring, look.
It could take a while.
Unless you're putting a
Secretary,
band-aid on a
all kinds of
child.
things.
So,
There is a canopy outside the entrance of Howe.
but
So what you're proposing, though, that would be at Howe is that you would come in, but the difference will be that it's locked to get into the office.
Correct.
So they can get no farther than that vestibule, affording clerical or whoever's in that office to observe
Correct.
who's outside and could detain, and if need, hit a panic button.
Right.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
And currently, the doors, walk into the vestibule, you've got, facing you are the doors into the school proper. To the right is the door to the office.
Correct.
Currently, the doors to the school proper are locked?
Correct.
Yes.
So you couldn't walk in and get in
Right.
the gym or anything.
Correct.
The doors to the office.
But the door to the office
Is unlocked.
Is unlocked.
is unlocked.
And once I get in the office, I can get in the school. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
So what is locked?
The vestibule doors are secured. The door to the office is unlocked. So you come in the outside door, you're in the vestibule area, you have to take a right and go into the office and check in the office.
Yeah, you can't go straight ahead. Those doors straight ahead into the school property are locked.
Correct.
So you have to go to the office. You can't go directly into the school.
So would that have been in, I guess what I'm wondering is I'm trying to reconcile this with us having a speaker who said that is completely unlocked. Would that have just been a mistake or an
I think
anomaly
that
on
what
one
he
day?
was meaning was that when you get into the office, then you can get into the school, and that door into the school is not locked.
Currently, you can go right into you enter the school, you turn to the right, you enter the office, you can walk through the office and get into the school. That's the issue.
Right.
There's no lock.
There's no
So
lock.
nothing
There's
is, that is correct, nothing is locked at that school.
What is locked is the going into the vestibule instead of going straight into the school. There are double doors that you can go straight into the school. Those are locked.
But you can go
But
from
you can go to the
from
right.
the outside, through the office and into the school,
Right, you
encountering
do
no
an
locks.
end around to get into the school.
But you would encounter the person asking you to sign in, and the
Okay,
person with the
but-
panic button, and
Right.
that is how it was set up.
But your
though.
point is that that's not enough to slow people down and give people a time to react.
Right.
So you're suggesting
We're suggesting adding a
locking
layer.
that
Right.
office
Door
door.
into the office, correct.
Okay.
Well, let us go back and maybe, since you've gone to these meetings, Sandy Hook, how did that perpetrator get in the building? Did
He shot through the door.
They shot through the window.
He shot through
You
the
can't
shot
see the door.
through the
Yeah.
glass.
Shot through the
I'd
glass.
like that, they were there, I want to
Yes.
hear from them, if I may, excuse me.
Yes, no.
What did they say about that? How many windows did he shoot through to get to?
He shot
to
through the
staff?
side panel of the school entrance. If you remember, this was their first year locking the main entrance. So the person came to the building, shot through the side door, and entered the building.
I think it was that panel.
Yeah, the panel.
And it was big enough for a person to fit
Sure.
through. So he
So then
shot
before
through
you
that.
did, he was in the main office.
He was well, no, he was in the building.
building.
He was in the hallway.
He was in the hallway, correct. Access to the
So-
vestibule, keep
so
on
right
going.
now, we're not much better off than that by locking this one door, because you can shoot through that very quickly, shoot the people in the main office and walk through the rest of the building. If the outer door is also locked, if a person has to shoot through that, that gives the people in the main office a fighting chance, in my opinion, with it.
Well, I don't think it's okay, starting tomorrow, that there's a completely unlocked path. I mean, I think there's some time to build in what the official system is, but yeah, I'm not into that idea at all of a completely unlocked path into the school. I'm a little nervous, although it's necessary. I'm a little nervous that we're talking about it at a public meeting. I mean, we have to, but.
But Andrew, just so that you know, in 2009, that was the model. Dan's was the model that we used. Coming in the exterior door, vestibule locked, access to the office. That was the model, district, state, and nation in 2009.
We worked very hard to get our offices in proximity to the main entrance so that that could be
Yeah, Martin was rebuilt
observed.
with that.
Kennedy was revamped. A lot of them were revamped to
To
make
that model.
right to that model. Right.
Well, that's great, but I mean, that was then, this
At the
is
time,
now.
it seemed like a good
Absolutely.
idea,
It's
and
good
now
to
we
steer,
need
it's
to.
good to steer people towards the office. and not have this straight
Right.
through, but now it
Right.
needs to be through to the office with a lock somewhere.
And that's what the recommendations are. And we're trying to change with, kind of society, what's accepted best practices nationwide. In 2009, what we did was the model state, nation. What we're recommending now is what the model is, state and nation. And I think our recommendations, if you go back and look at what we put in place in 2009, they were spot on. Things have changed, and we're recommending changes. And if you look at some of the training that we put on at West a couple years ago with the run, fight, hide, that was kind of the beginning of the change. So we have been trying to stay current on what's the best models.
Okay, so when are we going to lock it?
That's one of the recommendations.
When are we going to lock the door? When are we going to start locking the doors then?
Is there a buzzer installed already?
Not on the inside. No, we don't have the interior lock system and PA system. That's one of the recommendations in here. We don't have that in place right now.
We have to get funding.
We could lock the outside door and keep people in the outside.
And then they would buzz in?
And they would buzz in, correct. We could do that. And if we go into a lockdown, that's exactly what we do.
I personally prefer that you do that. And my preference is to have that outside door locked.
There should be if someone is on I understand there's something employee-way emergency with a kid, but you should be able to respond to a buzzer while you're on the phone, view the camera, and buzz the person in. You should be able to respond to the buzzer if you're working in your general desk area or you're putting mail in across. In most cases, someone should be able to view the camera and buzz. That should be one of the top priorities, except for a student emergency, is after looking, buzz the person in.
I agree with you, Andrew. And actually, the other side of the coin is, if they can't do that, what good is it to have the doors open and expect them to pay attention to see somebody come walking in, and they be...
That's a good point.
Worst case scenario is somebody waits a little longer to be allowed in the building. And
But I really think our public's open to that. I really do.
I think the public is open to that too.
I think they
we
are.
don't have to get another buzzer system. We've got a buzzer system that's already in place. We lock the outside door and implement that. I think that makes sense.
I guess the next step is, though, where's the next lock? Do you then want yet another lock between the office and the building? I don't necessarily recommend that. I think if we have this door is locked and then this door is locked, I don't know.
Some of our schools now already lock that
Or
outside.
double.
I've
Right.
gone into plenty of our schools where that outside door is locked.
Right.
Oh, the
Right.
outside
I would
door,
say
that's the one
if
I'm
you
talking
buzz the outside door, the person has to realize, at the very least, someone is there and buzz them in. And then if they buzz something in, then they see them through the sign-in process.
Is there a camera?
Before they get access.
Yeah.
Is there a camera in place?
Correct. There's a camera on the outside door, correct.
So then they can have access from the office because then they're going into the school building. Is there a need for yet another locked door right there?
You mean to get into the office?
No, to get into the building. To the building. Once you've been allowed to go into the vestibule, into the office.
I would say if it's standard practice protocol, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Is
sound
that
like
the
it
standard?
is.
Is 3 locks the standard now?
Well, the standard protocol is secure the vestibule.
Yeah.
Which would be putting the lock on the door. That's really what
There isn't a standard
you're going to
for
hear
that.
that more
I
and
don't
more
know.
is secure the vestibule.
And that means
Lock the vestibule
The
doors,
outside
which they
door.
are already, and lock the door to the office as well.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not part of the normal recommendation to have a third lock from the office into the building. By then, people have been able to see you twice.
Well, 2 things. That is correct, Andrew. And then the second part of it, it would be, I believe, and I'd have to double check this, but I believe that'd be a violation of fire code. You have to be able to get out of the building. You have to be able to get out of the room. You can't trap people in the room. So that would be a violation of fire code. And, there's a lot of times where security issues kind of conflict against fire code. And as the gentleman in the blue behind me will attest to, fire takes precedent over police.
Well, it seems like having to having 2 opportunities to be seen is reasonable. I'd be concerned too, does, the person who has legitimate business then going to the classroom, do they have to wait until after being checked in, after I recognize you're okay? Do they have to just sit there while the knee's getting bandaged up or something before a third lock can be opened? But I think the unfettered path to school has to stop.
Other questions about the report?
I'm still not sure where we are with all this, so somebody can summarize it,
If-
and I appreciate it.
I think what's going to happen is when we work on policy, we're going to be writing some of these things into policy, which at that point, I think, is when the school board will be looking at policy and rule and saying yes, because, or no. For example, the ID badges, the how visitors, the visitor procedures, some of those things will end up in rule in our policy, because right now they're like,
Okay, so again, let's get back to how. Right now, anybody can walk straight in through unlocked doors to the office. What are you going to do at how in schools like that?
Why don't tomorrow morning we send a memo to every school that the outside doors must be locked? We
can
have
do
that
that.
capacity. I mean, every time I go to Fort Howard School every Wednesday and Thursday, that door, outside door is always locked.
Actually, more often than not, the outside doors.
So why don't
So
we
we can
send a
do
memo
that.
to every school saying, lock the outside door, and then if we want to make some modifications or policy, we can take our time and do that, but I think that ought to be done tomorrow.
Let's just be sure that every school has a buzzer that is visible and that there's a camera on that buzzer so that at every outside door. That's correct?
Actually, there is one that is not, and that would be Dan's, because that was the model that we started with. So we will add an outside door and release for the doors at Dan's.
Okay. Okay.
So it's not a problem.
Are you clear, Chris? With
So
where
how
we
will be
are?
locked tomorrow?
Everybody else is than I am.
Okay. Yes.
We are, Chris. Trust
Okay.
me, you're clear.
Other questions about the report?
Well, I just want to say I appreciate their efforts, and I realize what was good practice before, be it in
But we're
school
not
safety or
concluding yet,
curriculum
my
or
friend.
whatnot, it does change. Thank
There's
you.
more. I have more. I was asking other people first if they have questions, because I have some. Okay, so in the report, and you had mentioned, Barb, but first of all, I think that revamping the procedures, there's a list of recommendations to the school board, which we will consider. I think probably consider yes or no at some later time, I think. Revamping the procedures, the handbook, the color-coded poster thingy, revamping the language. I think lockdown is a detrimental word. It is a word that is used in our United States prisons, and I think that is an unfortunate word, and I'm glad to see that that needs to go away. Reunification procedure, I think, is a very good one. The visitor procedures, to standardize them, I think that's really good. I think there's a lot of things here in the report that are good. I have 2 sticking points, okay, which you know I would. 2 sticking points. The first one is sort of more the way the report was put together. The second one is about what we're doing with our school resource officers. So I understand, in your presentation you had mentioned that you want to lay out a continuum of safety. And in the report you talked about, like recommendations 7 and 8. That's where it's very easily shown. The mental health screener and the threat assessment process. I was having a little problem with the breadth of the report because an active shooter situation is a very rare one. I looked it up. In the last 113 years, there have been about 240 school shooting incidents in the United States. That's nationwide. And that also includes incidences that have happened on college campuses. So like in 1965, that gentleman who was shooting from Texas and Virginia Tech. And so it also includes...
And I've got all of these all of those right there.
Yes, exactly. So it is and the last decade has not been the most dangerous in terms of school shooting in the last 100 years. There have been some other decades, especially in relationship to population, have been quite dangerous for students in schools. So while this is a very important protocol for us to have, an active shooter situation, I'm concerned that there's a little bit of mixing of what, especially our counselors, since we have so many counselors in the audience.
Social workers mostly.
Social workers do on a daily basis, and quite frankly what our SROs do on a daily basis in terms of monitoring and managing many different types of student behavior in the school. So I'm uncomfortable, I have to tell you, with the mixing of the everyday and the active shooter. I think it's important for us to talk about the active shooter. I think it's important for us to talk about the everyday. At some point, the continuum needs to be addressed, although I think that's a problematic one. Eric Harris was actually, according to the Columbine book, a psychopath. And Dylan Klebold was probably a depressive. And so, you know, how do we have a screener for psychopaths is really kind of, we don't have one. So, not sure about that. But then when we go to what the SROs do in the buildings, not just with an active shooter situation, which is a very intense one, it's one that requires everyone's expertise, everyone's alertness, right? But then what we do with the SROs in terms of their daily work and how we incorporate professional development, school professional development with the SROs. And I didn't see that in the report. I saw that at one point the SROs have, and I'm not going to be able to find it, of course, they have some training that they go through as police officers, of course. You had mentioned also some training, like the ALICE training, you would like our staff members to go through.
And the SRO.
So what and let us remember that the SROs are sworn police officers, and we pay for their salaries out of our school budget, out of the community service fund. And so I'd like to know what training we are giving to our SROs about being in the building, not just for these very intense situations, but for the everyday.
I wonder if would you like some of the SROs to come forward and talk about that, or not really?
Oh, well, I love the SROs. I know some of them.
Well, they're here.
Yes, they're here,
Right.
but I'd rather hear what our plans are for what we've done in the past, what our plans are for the future in terms of how we incorporate the SROs into our professional development. From you.
I will at times be able to fund some school security type programs. NetSmarts I guess that's not, I guess it is school security because it's about cyberbullying. But NetSmarts, for example, that was offered down near Milwaukee, and it was offered at a police department. And that's where I first learned about it, because it was being offered to police officers. After I learned about that training there, and we had a number of SROs that were down there, I was able to bring that back, and then all of the all of the elementary counselors and middle school counselors were trained in that. So that is something that started, with the SROs being trained, and they are using it in some of the buildings, and then our elementary counselors use that. Okay. So that would be like professional learning. You're kind of saying different than shooting on the shooting range. I'm getting.
That is what I'm saying.
Okay, so I'm thinking about that. They have what they call schools that they go to. They present programs in elementary. We had for a while the gang resistance education training, and we have gone away from that a little more because we wanted to use our SROs as more of a way to help our truancy go down. So there's a time differential there. So now they are going out on home visits with the school social workers at many of the different levels. And it's not a home visit where they're there as the muscle. They're there as support for the school social worker and as support for the family. And it's not that a ticket is going to get written on the spot, but it shows the seriousness of how important it is for children to be in school. So we use our SROs a lot in that capacity. this year and last year. And each building, in fact, has a flow chart that the school social worker is responsible for implementing, and one has been implemented at each building, and that home visit is part of the flow chart. So we use the SROs in that capacity. Think, gosh, they're right there.
Well, and any of the professional learning that's offered, like the ALICE training.
Okay.
A lot of the SROs went to the ALICE training. They were
did.
offered, yeah.
Yeah, was it?
So we try to, anything that's offered state, locally, we try to encourage and have our school resource officers attend.
But offered in what regard? Offered for, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the ALICE training again. Tell me what it stands for, that acronym.
Alert, lockdown, I don't have it memorized.
Okay,
Evacuate
alert,
is the-
lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. Training, okay, so that is for a crisis.
Right, so you're
That is
saying
not for an everyday.
non-crisis.
I'm saying not a crisis. I'm confident our cops in a crisis. I'm wondering and I'm confident that they work with the school social workers and the APs and the principals. I hear what they do in the schools. I want to know what we're doing in order to promote that continuing professional development for them as presences in our school.
Okay. Another thing that the police department requires, they have to go through a certain number of hours of schooling each year, and there are different things that they have to be schooled on, and I don't have those at the, right here, because I wasn't prepared for this question.
Okay.
And they possibly could tell
Maybe
you.
Captain Galvin can come forward and tell us a little bit about that. He's been around for a while.
But he isn't the SRO person.
The SROs and detectives.
You have to go to the microphone, I'm sorry.
If you get it on TV.
Green Bay Police Department officers are, by state, are required to attend 24 hours of continuing education every year. That is set up for the department. It might include things like legal updates. It might include diversity training. It has included, we have a new rape crisis program that we instituted several years ago.
Okay.
We have ongoing tactical training, and you're all aware of that. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
In addition, the SROs attend classes on interview and interrogations, conducting investigations, working. There's classes that they have that are geared more towards working with juveniles. Because
so describe those.
To be honest with you, I can't tell you in particular what they are.
Okay. But you mean juvenile offenders or juveniles in general?
Both.
Okay.
So there's a lot of classes that they have, and I understand what you're trying to get at. I mean, obviously, the hot button thing is what do we do with the big crisis things.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition, what are they doing within our schools to facilitate helping our children? And
how do we help you to develop that professional aspect of what you do?
Well, I think a lot of what Barb has already alluded to is taking place with some of the classes that they have found in other areas of the state and then have sent our officers down there. Sometimes because you do not want to strip all your SROs from the school system at one time, you have to send them down piecemeal until you can somehow find a way of bringing them up here cost effectively. There's only, what, I believe 11 SROs? 10 SROs. So to bring an instructor of, say, a national caliber here for 10 SROs would be cost prohibitive. So you try and tie it in with other school districts, or if you can, sometimes there's train-the-trainer programs where you can send a few SROs down and they become trainers for the other SROs. So there's a lot of different things that, even as our department has learned over the years, when you're trying to save dollars but also be effective at the same time, there's different ways of going about it. And I do know that the detective division and the SROs who work through a detective division have had ongoing training through the school system that's provided directly for them and not for other officers. And then there's other education that goes on within the department that they attend because it benefits them with their interaction with the children in school. And if you'd like, I can get a hold of Todd tomorrow.
That'd be great.
And have him put together a list of the training that they've had. And that's easy enough to do by going into our system. Yes, ma'am.
As a follow-up to that, When the trainings are talked about and determined by the police, are we also partnering so that we say, here's some things we would like to see? Has that been done in the past, or is it typically the police department sets the agenda or the professional learning, and then if there's a new change in law and what have you? In other words, that we would say, here are some things that we see that would be helpful for us to support children differently than we're currently doing, or, you know, and then talk about what that would look like across the district. Have we done that, Barb?
I do that with the 10 SROs. I mean, I don't ask the police department to probably put on things, but they do put
no,
things.
I'm not suggesting,
right, but like
what
the
kind-
diversity
how is that
training,
addressed?
you know, that. But will see something, and I'll contact Todd, and then he can post it, because they have a process by which, and then I'll say, you know what, I want one from each quadrant, so that the quadrants are equally represented to go to whatever the training might be. So that has happened over the years. Now, you know, it's happened less the last 2 years, because there's no safe in the schools. What was it called? The Title IV money is gone. It all dried up. And so now I don't have very much money to send them to anything, but Safe and Supportive Schools has provided me with a little bit, which is why I was able to. There was an associate principal / SRO school in Madison that I got some SROs, were able to go, and some of our APs were able to go because of Safe and Supportive School funding. But the district funding, there isn't much district funding for something like that. So I try to find it through grants.
But just as a follow-up then, but there are ongoing dialogue that you and Todd have, and as issues arise, how do you make sure that the conversation occurs across all of the officers? Is there a meeting?
Yes.
When are the meet?
Todd has monthly meetings with them, and at times I'm invited to come to those meetings and to talk with them about things that are going on. So definitely there are, and he probably sees them a lot more than that.
Yeah. Just 1 second, Chris. Brian, you wanted to add something?
One of the best things with the SROs is that they're in the building. The students see them, the staff sees them, and we see the same ones on a regular basis, and they're making the connections with the kids. And that, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities out there, but we got to remember, I know my 2 SROs very well. I feel very comfortable going up and talking to them. The majority of the students do as well, and I think that's probably the best benefit that you have with the program right now, is that we know the officers that are in there, they're in there consistently, and we see them. And that's
Yeah, those relationships.
And it showed at East. I mean, that's why we didn't have a Columbine situation at East, because Matt went to find his SRO. His SRO was at roll call at that moment, and so then his next choice was finding his associate principal. But the first person he sought out was the SRO to say, I think something bad is going to happen, and something bad indeed would have happened if he wouldn't have stopped it. So I think we've shown that relationship piece is really important.
Chris?
If I may answer part of your question, and correct me if I'm wrong, the liaison officers in the area, from the area school district as well as our school district, meet usually once a month to discuss common issues. Sometimes they'll have a presentation or just sharing what's going on. That helps them. At Preble, and I don't know whether it's still be done or the other schools do it, we used to meet once a week. By we, I mean the administrators, the liaison officers, the social worker that was dealing with attendance, and others on an ad hoc basis to discuss different youngsters and where they are and what what piece do I take care of, or does an officer take care of someone else. So that was also part of their training, just to see how we work with kids and how they could help us work with kids.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Katie?
I had a question, but I think Andrew had his hand up first.
Okay, go ahead, Andrew, then Katie.
Are you still on 3? Or
Wherever you want to be.
Wherever you want to be.
I just didn't want to interrupt.
No, go
step.
right ahead. No, if there's another. Thank you, Captain Galvin.
So, okay, I'm on 7. As you know, I've been critical for a really, really long time about how I feel the prevention program gets the short end of the stick. I've felt that way for about 22 years, which was the seeds of my running for the board in the first place. And I don't like, I get that your office, especially Barb, works round the clock for grants, and that's important, and we need them. But I guess it bothers me here to see if some kind of a screening and prevention program, really a good prevention program should always save money in the long run. I'm wondering why is that not something that, if the grant money isn't there, that our district isn't making the decision to do it anyways? And I realize there's limited things, but what is more important than preventing these situations and identifying that student in crisis who the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to direct some extra resources to a student who's having serious personal issues. Maybe the student is going to not act out in any way. Great, but if we can stop one that way through a prevention program, through single, if we can find a screening, why wouldn't we make that decision at the district level that that's something we're going to do?
We might. I didn't bring it forward as a budget item. It's in the recommendations, and I don't think tonight was the night you were going to necessarily vote on giving us the money to do any of these things. But it's possible that it could come back in a talk about budget, and we could see what.
How much do they both?
59. I think.
If
you go to the last appendix, you can see the amounts of the. I think the cost was moved to that last appendix, appendix 5.
I guess I would like to add my support to Andrew's comments. I would like to see a recommendation come to the board on that. I think a screener would be really critical, and I would like to see a recommendation in this budget cycle regarding that.
I guess also if things have to be laid out, I guess I'd be interested in us considering when we have the professional trainer who's only going to be brought in to reach a small percentage of our students, is we bring in a trainer for an ALICE training for $20,000. Could we? Is that? And I'm just pointing at one, just randomly pointing at one. Is there information that you need $20,000 trainers to convey? Is there some of it that's just a change in policy that we can communicate? And I don't know. Maybe there's something about, and again, I just picked one and pointed to it, and my finger landed on the ALICE training, so I said that one.
Is that a question?
I think if I could just clarify, what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking is you have a whole menu of recommendations. And what makes sense now with the feedback you're getting is to go back and prioritize them. Would that be
we did,
where you'd like to
but
go?
they're different
I
priorities
know,
than you had.
some of the recommendations need,
further vetting?
Yeah, I think they need further vetting. I really do.
Okay.
I really do. I think some of them are very easy to say yes to, not tonight, right? But I think some of them are very easy to say yes to. I think others need vetting. And I think I think some of the recommendations need to conform to some of our board priorities, quite frankly. So, and not that they do or don't, but rather that's a conversation we have to do in order to scaffold, right? The recommendation with the board priority.
What is the difference if you talk about the mental health screener and replicate the responder program? What are those two parts? Like, do they have separate? I guess I'm not understanding what's the difference between.
Well, once you get the child screened, you have to do something with it. You can screen people and go, oh my goodness, there's a problem. But then you need to do that next step, and we need to have a dedicated person to seek out the different venues that we might be able to then refer the child and the family to. And that is mental health services are very hard to get, especially for medical assistance families. So it takes some work to try to get people hooked up to the right place. And Kim Shannock is here.
Kim Shannock.
She wrote the grant, so is that about right, Kim?
Would you like the short summary of what the responder program is?
Would you like the short summary of the responder
I
program?
think I kind of know what the responder program is. I mean, it's
Well, I think that if there's something, yes. I think
For our viewing audience,
that's
yes,
right. I
please.
think, Kim, if that's okay with you, the short summary of what it is and what's the scoop.
Thank you. This will be the world's shortest summary.
right.
This is a program that has been expanded in the Akron, Ohio area because it has produced increased attendance data and achievement data for kids. You focus on a pretty specific demographic of kids, and I could give you more information about that. And you do mental health screeners with them, and then you really case manage them right into the services. And you're kind of leveraging the truancy citations that they're eligible for, because we do not like to cite our families. Our SROs do not like to have our families cited, and we just use that as weight to get kids into services. We don't determine what those services are. We work with the community providers. We'd be very careful about that. But they've expanded their program from the middle school to the elementary level because of the outcomes. It's really a diversion program from juvenile justice is the point of it, to keep kids in school and on track for graduation and out of the juvenile justice system.
that to me seems a valuable and important thing, but to say it in the same breath as we're talking about the screener seems a bit of a. It seems that there's some connection, but they're not the same thing, right?
That's how they operate their program.
But is the screener then only is screening for people who have truancy?
Nope. That would be just the point at which we would develop and refine our process using that demographic. Then we would generalize the use from there. But we need to start and figure out what we're doing and who this works with and what community resources we have to support kids. And this, we would pick the same entry point that the Akron School District did because they mapped it out and it worked out for them.
You're saying you'd have the responder program, you'd begin the screener program with that group and then expand it?
Yeah, that's the stuff we don't know, until we do the pilot.
It's
based on the
logical
program
to
they
try
did.
with that, to start with that program, because if they're truant, there are issues. So you want to, that's a given, so you need to, go to the next step and find out what might be
I
contributing.
guess what is a screening in this model? What is a screening and who does it before, right? Because one of them is a system with multiple moving parts and social services and justice system and police and all that. What is the screening?
A social worker uses a free instrument. In the example of that school district, I think it's the Massachusetts Adolescent something youth. It's an acronym for it, and it's free and it's data-based and it's supported, and it's just meant to screen for some of the things that might be contributing, to give us other ways to work with families to get the kids in school.
We have a teen screen is something else that we could get.
Okay, so now,
which is in the area.
That was the magic word I was looking for is free, and I know staff time isn't free, but why not at least offer? I'm not saying we get into a different issue if we say that we're forcing some assessment on people, but why wouldn't we be offering that just as in the normal course of the day, adults in the building become aware that a student might be having a problem?
I don't know that I would be comfortable screening, doing a mental health screening, and then going, okay. There has to be a next step to after that, not just in general saying that someone might have a problem. I wouldn't be comfortable doing that.
We just have to make sure that the people screening are trained Right, adequately. The other piece, though, is always then what?
The follow-up.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
if there's
what?
no
You know,
services in the
if we have no
community,
services
which
and
I
so
don't think there
support,
is,
we have to be mindful of that because then we have knowledge. And we need to, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm just saying we have to make sure we have the then what. Because we need to be able to follow up if we know a child is not where they need to be and well. We have to do something. And so that's the piece of this bigger picture. Having used screeners in the past, you have to really be mindful of what that next steps will be and have those resources in place.
Thank you
so
Councilor.
much. Looking forward.
Any other questions? We've gone way past our allotted 15 minutes.
I think so.
I have a hard time, I do have a question. That same recommendation 7, it almost seems like it has to be, I mean, the rest of, the majority of this is the procedural things and the equipment we need to have in place in order to follow the procedures. This recommendation 7 with the screening and the mental health thing, I just think that needs to take on a life of its own.
So we had written the grant for it, that's why we were going to try to pilot it and try it out, but it was turned down. So.
But then I think we need to look at, if we don't get the grant money, I think we need to look at whether or not we can put that in our regular budget.
Okay.
Because I think that's a critical piece. And I think it's a way, because you were talking about, the use of the SROs in our building, the function. I think working with social workers and the SROs together, I think this is a very valuable piece that we need to not rely on grants. We need to do something about this. I really do.
I think it requires more information.
Oh, it definitely
than is
requires more
provided.
information and
Because,
more fleshing out.
But
we can't just say we didn't get the grant in, so therefore, we need to, I think what this needs to be, this is a big chunk of.
Well, and that's my initial sort of question and my discomfort with talking about lots of things about, active shooter situations, which may or may not generate from, the active shooters may or may not be part of the student body. And putting that information in with this other information, which I think needs to be, both pieces of information need to be deeply considered on their own merits or demerits. And this requires more, the number 7 requires a longer conversation and more information as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'm one person here, but like I said, I think some of the other things are about the doors. We had a long conversation about that, about the updating of the plan. There seemed to be a little bit of board discomfort with the fight part of the run and hide. I'm not sure where we all are on that part, but I like like I said, the change in language, the update of our policy, and I think, although this was just a discussion item, I'm not sure what the next steps are for us. You talked about board policy, which is actually one of your recommendations. What's next, Barb?
Well, some of the things that we can implement for no charge at all. For example, we didn't even mention the staff meeting tabletop scenarios. I mean, at staff meetings, you might have a scenario, you come upon 2 students fighting in the commons or fighting in a hallway. What are your actions? Everything isn't about an active shooter. It's about the crisis situations that you come upon all the time. Yeah. And so that's the kind of thing we'd like to have at the monthly meetings. One of our SROs, Rod Du Bois, has been going out and doing some talks at some of the schools, the private schools right now, because they've asked him to come in, and it's called a minute a day. You think about school security a minute a day, and the associate principal at Notre Dame throws out little scenarios like, there's someone walking in the hall, doesn't have a visitor's pass on, what should you do? or you see someone that's concerning to you, what's your next step? Just to get people thinking. I think those things are things that are free and cheap, but they take some time to figure out and to train people with. So those are things we can implement. New teacher orientation. Who teaches the new teachers about school security? It's not, but we will now next year. So it'll be a dedicated thing. And then the safe school materials, again, that's $11,000. We didn't really get to talk about it. Probably don't want to go into it too much, but you have it in your report. There's a lot of great materials that our district is already using from Safe Schools, and you can see all of those things. So those are some things that maybe are less, I don't know what the right word is, controversial maybe is the right word, things that we could implement right away. I don't want to update the crisis plans until we decide what it is we're going to be updating them to. What are we going to be teaching? And if we do decide that we are going to be teaching some of these alternatives to lockdown, then I really want it taught well. And I think that having these outside trainers, which really doesn't cost a whole lot of money, especially if we get other people to pay for part of that training, then we will do that properly, and professional learning will happen, and then that can be passed on because every building would be represented. But I just wouldn't want to just go ahead and throw that out. Everybody now run, hide, fight. No, it has to be done in a really responsible way. So I don't know what the next step is. We've made a lot of recommendations. You're right. We've spent a lot of time looking at these things.
Yes, and thank you for putting it all together and having the social workers here and having GBPD here. I think lots of people, and as the parent in the beginning had said, lots of people in the community are concerned. And as Brian Mills sort of echoed, there are a lot of staff members who really feel very much that the SROs are very much a part of the school environment. And so I think it's important for us to all talk about what these issues are. So, Michelle.
I'm looking at and thinking about, and I'm going to ask a question about past practice, because this is the first, many changes, many little things, not a major. Some of the major things is this is the whole change from lockdown and hiding, and that's all new. So that's a piece. But when we're talking about these smaller things that will improve what we've done in the past, and I wasn't here, this is the first time this has really come forward with some relatively big changes, but some things less, lower hanging fruit. In the past, have you always brought those to the board, or do you do those, and that's the piece that I don't know. Some of this is intended, I'm assuming, to just report as opposed to seek approval.
Everything doesn't go to the board.
The professional learning, like the tabletop. Some of those pieces are just what we're doing to make sure that we have the most recent and up-to-date information. Now, a practice like changing lockdown names, some of those things have to be heavily communicated.
That's
not
right.
only, and I would say very much need to be cleared through this body, as governance questions. So maybe what I'd like to do, Barb, is go back and let's look and see what is governance, and then I can sit down and share them with Brenda and make sure that we have the areas that the governance pieces need to go through, and then look at the next piece. And I think the mental health screenings will in fact raise concern and questions in some families. So I think that was a really important thing to bring to this table, because there are families who don't want their children screened for whatever reason. So, and we have to just be mindful of that as well. So. But that requires, because we didn't get the grant, it's a different conversation, and we need to vet that out and kind of frame that out in a separate conversation, would be my recommendation.
One last thing, if I may. If I heard you right, putting something in front of doors, research says that's a very good thing to do.
Barricading?
Barricading, thank you. Some things like that, we shouldn't have to wait forever.
No.
I mean, and changing the name to something better. I don't think it has to come back here. I think should be able to move on that. That's pretty simple. And we don't need a whole master plan put together to do some of the things like that. If you're telling me the research says that's very important to do.
Have we looked building by building the logistics of even running as an option?
You have to establish probably rally points if you're going to do that. I've talked with the police department about that, so if something did happen, they would have someone at those rally points. We also know 98% of the school shooting cases, there's been one perpetrator. So that people that might raise the argument, well, what if there's someone outside the building? Well, you really need to look at the threat you most likely have, which is 98% of the time there's only one. So that getting people out, if it's safe to get them out, is a good option. And then you have to try to get some, especially with little children, you're going to have to try to have someone there with them.
Yeah, I'm just
There's a
picturing
lot, but that's what the training is about. That is why it needs a training behind it. It can't just be me talking about it, because I
Right.
know about it, but I'm not the expert on it.
Toss them out the window.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone, for coming and hanging in there with us. I appreciate it. We
You're
all
welcome to
appreciate
stay,
it.
too.
You're welcome to stay through with the rest of our fun and fact-filled school board meeting. Yes, and
Hope we don't have any more
The door will be
15-minute
locked tomorrow.
reports.
Alan? Will Hal be
Mr.
locked tomorrow?
Connor. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Like another 5-minute break, actually.
You gotta finish your report.
Okay, right. My report.
Yeah, come on.
Speed it up here.
Yeah. Kind of dragged your feet on this one. Okay.
15 minutes is not enough
Just
time.
say there's
Okay,
no
so there's
site
there's no school site reports, and that concludes my report. Finally at 8:30.
What's next?
Do we want to know what next month's report is?
Next,
I
where's
think
Kim?
Gwen is coming in with an
Kim is not
update.
here. Gwen is coming.
Gwen
in.
Stamp is
for an
coming
update.
in.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Can I just,
What?
Yes.
the school site reports have been on there for 6 months, 7
They
months.
should go off.
And I'm thinking that either we decide we're going to do them or we
Yeah,
take
we're
that
not-
off
we're
the
not.
agenda.
We're not.
And then I'm also
Not like
wondering
we used to.
Not like we used
about the name, Building Focus Updates. I don't know. I wonder if you and, are you with South?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you and Mike could kind of talk about, your
A different name?
committee, the name, the focus, how you want to spend your time, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because we
And
did
maybe
already
talk
talk
with
to Kim
Terry
and Mark and Steve
Yeah.
Miller about not doing, that we needed to do something different, but we never actually changed the names and
Right.
things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's,
No.
You think you guys
We're
can handle it?
just going to make an executive decision.
I would appreciate that.
And we won't have an hour-and-a-half discussion on the
We
name
won't
change
have an
either.
hour and a half discussion,
At
I
least
promise.
Oh, I'm not going to hold you to that, but we'll see.
all right, so that
Okay.
concludes your report now.
Thank
Yes,
you,
it
Brenda.
does.
Okay.
Next, we have superintendent's update. Question is, do we need another break? No. I'm getting a
No, I'm good.
head nodding.
Let's roll here.
I could
We
do
can-
my calendar.
You can do your calendar. We can get this done.
Yes. If you open the calendar, you'll see that we're already moving out of March and into April. So maybe the snow will stop. April 15th, our teaching and learning work session begins at 5:30 and here in the boardroom. And then April 15th, also immediately following, is our organizational support work session meeting. And that will follow that. And then April 17th, we will celebrate the Golden Apple Awards. And as you probably know, we had 3 winners this year, 2 from Washington Middle School. And Brian's giving us the thumbs up. And it was, he could have been one.
Yes.
In the future, he will be. And one from Dan's Elementary. And I want it noted that all 3 of our Golden Apple winners are in schools that some might deem as not as successful as others. And as I shared today, these are individuals who, under the current budget proposal, will not receive any kind of incentive awards. And clearly, when our community and Chamber of Commerce have defined them as outstanding teachers, we really need to acknowledge the fact that we have outstanding teachers in each and every one of our schools, and that has to be something that we celebrate. So congratulations to those winners as well, and that's coming up at the Radisson that evening on April 17th. April 18th, we have a community engagement center at East High School, or session at East High School, and then April 22nd is our regular board meeting. And I don't know if it's not on there, but just to back us off, we do have some engagement sessions this week.
Oh,
Yes.
Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thursday
and I
is
want to
two of
make
them.
sure there's two of them that we have to.
11:30,
At Old West Library.
right?
Okay.
Who's
got
coming
that.
at 11:30?
I'll be there.
I'm
I'm gonna try and get there.
Do my best to be there.
So
I may have
then-
to leave early. I have to be
And
at
then there's
Fort
one at the
Howard.
Kroc Center at 5:30.
At 5:30, so.
who's able
On
to come
Thursday.
to that?
That one I know I can't come to. That's no
I will
fun.
be there for the West one. I cannot be there for the Green.
I'll come to the Kroc Center.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I
Can't.
I will try. I will need to change something.
That Thursday one.
I will be at the Kroc Center.
You'll be at
So,
the Kroc Center? Okay.
that sounds good. I just wanted to remind us of that, so
Yes,
thank you.
thank you for reminding us.
And that is my calendar, and then I think there's some other items. There's no discussion items, so now we move to action.
All right, we have action items. I'll entertain a motion under employment of administrative staff.
I move that the employment of Jennifer Vincent as Manager of Employee Services, 12 months, District Office, as listed, be approved.
Second.
Any questions, or does Jean, do you want to come up? Because a whole bunch of these are going to be yours.
It's got Jean Marsh
It does
all
have
over
Jean
it.
splashed across it, yes.
She's partnering with me in this report.
All right, good.
I can probably sit in the middle here. This is the HR position that we approved, and Jennifer Vincent is in the audience. I could have her stand.
Oh, hi.
So,
Oh,
so-
Well, you've been sitting there a long time.
I know.
Holy
Just
cow.
for 3 hours.
Just to get a job. Holy cow.
duly noted.
we'll see if she comes for the first
Yeah,
year.
that's right.
So she comes with a lot of experience in human resources, graduate of UW Green Bay in an MBA program, also at Lakeland. Lots of comp experience, which is what we need, and benefits.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, roll call, Sandy.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Franz? Aye. Jeffries?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Welcome.
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 Jennifer.
I move that the Home Construction Partnership Teacher job description as presented be approved.
Second.
Sarah Brame is here if you have any questions. Just say a few words.
She did get up and leave tonight, and I kept thinking, she'll come back.
Was she grimacing?
This job description is based off of the curriculum that hopefully you will pass in just a couple minutes after this for the residential architecture and residential construction partnership project with Home Builders Association, NeighborWorks Green Bay, and Habitat for Humanity. It's very specific to what NWTC requires.
Okay. All right, good. That's fine. Yep.
Okay. Anything? No questions? All right, Sandy.
Becker?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Next.
I move that the work-based, project-based
Thank
counselor
you,
coordinator
Sarah.
job description as presented be approved.
Second.
Barbara's here if you have any questions about the next few job descriptions.
No, Barbara's not here.
She's not here.
You scared her away.
She's locking all the elementary school doors. All right.
The next several are job descriptions that Barbara submitted for counselor coordinator and alternative ed program support coordinator. Brand new positions.
And these are in the past, well, she's not here, she's probably the person I should need to ask. In the past, this was just covered by, or, I mean, who was serving the function of the tasks that are listed on the job
I don't know if she really has to be here. In
Do you want me to
she
go
was,
down?
She was
to an-
supposed
Do we
to.
want to pass on this one?
Do you want to
and-
hold on this one and then? Because
and go down to
she
one
was
where we don't require
she was
Barb?
supposed to be here, and I think she's still.
She's here.
She's here. She just stepped out
She'll
to
take-
talk.
So do we want to?
Okay.
Okay, is she involved with the alternative education one? Okay.
Yeah, the next week.
That's one that's next, right? Yep.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so we'll put those two on hold till Barb gets back, and we'll move to the Intercity Student Council report.
Okay,
Jessica?
thank you.
I know I talked to you guys a lot about the CP telethon, but I just wanted to break down the numbers. Preble was able to raise $720 with the help of the school and the pledges. West actually raised a record amount of just over $2,000 for the CP telethon.
Good. Wow. Whoa.
East was able to raise just over $1,300 through their male beauty pageant contest. Southwest raised approximately $1,000. So if you put it all together, the Green Bay Public Schools, the high schools raised just over $5,000 for this year's CP telethon.
That's great. Good job.
Also, at our last Sunday night meeting, a representative from the mayor's office came to visit. The chief of staff's assistant came, and we talked about moving forward with a new initiative called Student Rush. This was started, I think, earlier in the school year, August actually. So we talked about that and what Student Rush is. It's an initiative to get deals for students in the communities, not only in restaurants, but also, for example, tickets for the Meyer Theater or sporting events.
So restaurants too then? Because before I thought it was just like performance venues, but restaurants. Okay, that's
Restaurants too. We did talk about partnering with the new Smart Cow on the east side of town, which every time I drive by, it is packed full. We did talk about partnering with PMI, correct?
We're going to send a letter of interest to them saying that we want to partner with them. But so far they've been unresponsive to the mayor's staff.
So we'll see what they say to us. So again, we're moving forward with that initiative. And then some good news from Preble. I also mentioned this before, but I want to highlight that Preble had their first ever model European Union team. I want to highlight the members that were on the team. Priyanka Navani, she is an ICSC member. Tessa Tilot, Ellie Brennan, Brittany Rupp, Melissa Belchek, Randy Parmentier, Zach Wallenfang, and myself were part of the first ever model European Union team. This was an event held at St. Norbert, and what it is, it's a simulation of a meeting at the European Union. Everyone is in role play the whole time. Preble was given Poland. We were the delegates to represent Poland. The only other Green Bay school that was represented was Southwest, and they were given the country Italy to represent. So what this is, basically we were sent top secret information and negotiation materials, and we were supposed to take on the role play of delegates representing our country. So that was an amazing experience, not just for people who want to go into the political science field or international relations field, but just we had debate forums. We had to build alliances with other countries. So this was overall a really great experience. Mr. Jeffrey Klein was our advisor for Preble. Very enthusiastic. We had, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Edmodo. It's kind of like a Facebook, but for education. We had various extensive discussions on that. If we found articles, all of the members were really proactive in posting those and having really good discussions. So,
Mr. Klein sent the board an email telling us in part how proud he was of how well you did and what a great experience that it was, and that they're already talking about next year. I know they're losing 3 seniors.
No, 2.
2 seniors. Okay.
Melissa and I. Oh, sorry, 3. Yes. Zach.
Okay, 3 seniors,
he wants
and
us
that
to come back and
that they want to, choose 3 new members.
Yeah. Overall, a really great experience, and I would not just advise, but encourage the other high schools in the district to be part of this as well. Miss Shirley Paulson was able to make an appearance, and she just, talked to the Southwest group and the Preble group, just encouraging us. I think it was under her department that this got funded by.
Right, she's the one that told Mr. Klein about it. Who is the teacher from Southwest? Do you know offhand?
I do not know the teacher.
Andrew Green, okay.
And he's a social studies teacher as well. So overall, a really incredible experience, and I would encourage the other high schools to take part in that also. Preble Show Choir, this past weekend they had cabaret, and it was a really great turnout. Everyone was fascinated by their glow stick performance. I don't know if anyone was there, but it went viral on Facebook. So. And then moving on to West, they have their musical, which is The Sound of Music, coming up, which is, I believe, April 10th and 11th. Also, before the musical, there will be an IB art show. The projects of students in IB Arts will be on display and for sale also. Anna Yang, she is an ICSC member. Her projects will be on display and for sale. She's been working, I think, is it an article of clothing?
Something about fashion.
Yeah.
That's what she wants to major in, so that doesn't surprise me.
Fashion and design.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool. This will be held prior to the musical performance.
What's the date again?
I believe it's April 10th and 11th. And then moving on to East. Recently, one of their cognitively disabled students was chosen for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I think the student chose to go to Disney World, right? In Florida. And then there was cheerleaders and the band to give him a proper send off and wish him good luck.
Good.
That was very exciting for them. And then also the students are very excited for the visual arts portion of the Fine Arts Institute that's starting out. So I know Evan is really into that, and he was very excited.
Liz
Grunwald also. And then just moving on to Southwest, the Trojan Games are beginning, and this is a volleyball tournament that they have yearly, I believe. Southwest is known for their DECA team, which is their very strong DECA team and advisor. I think State DECA actually starts tomorrow, so members from all of the high schools will be going and participating. 3 members from the Southwest team already have a spot for the national competition in Anaheim, California this year. So it's very exciting. And one of them happens to be Mitch McMahon, which is also an ICSC member. So with that, unless you have anything else to add? Okay, thanks.
And tell them about yours. That's a big deal for a Green Bay student.
Okay. I applied to into this. It's called the Wisconsin Senate Scholars Program, and as a participant from Badger Girls State last year, this is kind of what comes after. I applied. It's very competitive, and 33 students in the state of Wisconsin are chosen to be part of this program. So for a week, I will be shadowing our district senator, which is Senator Dave Hansen. I'll be in Madison for a week. I get to draft my own bill and be part of a debate forum, and just overall great experience.
Very cool.
That's great.
Yeah, great.
And that concludes my report.
When are you going to start running?
It will be
For
April
office.
7th.
No, not yet, but I'm ready. Just hook me up when you're ready.
Okay.
There you go.
I will help you with that.
Are you 18 yet?
I am.
Well, there you go.
All right.
We had a mayor in Anoka. I think he was 21. So something to keep on your radar for the future in our community and beyond.
All right, thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
I'm going to call up the meeting here. Barb's not back?
No.
All right, we'll move to the legislative liaison report.
Is she
then.
where we're looking for her? Does anyone text her? You did text her? You're going to text her. Okay, she responds to texts very quickly.
Should we go ahead and move on to the legislative liaison report?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you, Brenda. This is going to be a report by committee. First item is the day at the Capitol, and I'll give a little bit of a background, and then I'm going to ask other people who participated in this just to give a brief summary of their opinions and reactions. Accompanying me to Madison, Brenda, Michelle, Chris, and then Claudia Hendrickson, who will join us at the table. And I have to tell you that it was invaluable having Claudia along to talk to legislators about the special education vouchers. So I think a lot of legislators did not know the impact of this. So Claudia will be talking about that. Just a general overview, every 2 years the WASB sponsors Day at the Capitol in the year that the biennial budget is unveiled. And in the morning we had some state budget briefings. There was a panel discussion by several members of the Joint Finance Committee. Secretary Mike Hepsch from the Department of Administration talked about budget priorities. One of the 5 budget priorities was reforming education, which basically means giving public education no money and vouchers. That's kind of reforming education. And then Dan Rossmiller and Joe Quick, our 2 WSB lobbyists, talked to us about the legislative priorities WASB has, that all the members have. And attached you will find, we don't need to call them up, but I think it's good background for you. One of them is an updated list of all of our legislators in the Senate and the Assembly and their contact information. And there are WSB position papers, which obviously agree with our positions. One on the independent charter school expansion. There is one that gives all the state budget provisions, what the DPI budget proposal was, what the governor's proposal is, and what WSB's position is. And then there's position papers on the school funding and the revenue limit freeze, and then one on the expansion of private school vouchers and the special education vouchers. At noon, there was a debate between Tony Evers and Don Pridemore, the 2 candidates for state superintendent of public instruction, and there could not be a starker contrast in those candidates. Tony Evers is basically, his proposal was to increase the revenue limit by 225. Obviously, there is now a proposal by Senators Ellis and Luther Olson, to increase it by $150, which certainly is better than zero. And obviously he is, Tony Evers is strongly against vouchers. Representative Pridemore says schools are going to have to live with 0% and vouchers are a good thing. And then before we went up to the Capitol, there was a press conference, and I have to say that Green Bay was well represented. I made some introductory remarks and introduced the speakers. Brenda was the first speaker, and the speakers were talking about the impact of the budget on our districts, and I'll let Brenda talk about what she said. And then the other 2 speakers were Susan Fox, president of Monona Grove School Board, and Mary Arnold, vice president of the Columbus School Board. And then we spent the afternoon meeting with legislators. And we can talk about individual ones if you'd like, but I think on the way home, I think we left feeling pretty good that there was a growing realization by members of the legislature that the governor's budget is not fair to public education, that there has to be some kind of an increase, and the proposal is for $150, raising the revenue limit, and then also that vouchers, special education vouchers, and the privatization of the charter school process must be taken out of the budget and decided separately. So with that, I'll let others give their impressions of the day. Brenda, why don't you start?
I guess my message primarily at the press conference was that the policy changes, the voucher bill and the charter school changes should be pulled out as separate legislation. I also talked a little bit about the specific impact on Green Bay schools and in specific the zero increase in funding and how that affects our schools. I would echo Mike in terms of the meetings I had with legislators. It seems like they're pausing to think about what the long-term implications are, and then what the immediate ramifications are for our schools, and starting to question whether it should be in the budget, and you know, I think there's some conversation about potentially pulling that out of the budget.
Michelle?
You know, the conversations that I had, I talked a lot about to our legislators that I saw about our schools are not failing. I think that there is a lot of misinformation out there regarding graduation rates. And one of the things that I think is very important when we look at our graduation rates for Green Bay in particular, and several of the legislators said to me, you have to get this information out. We look at legacy rate as much as we look at just the 4-year rate, because many of our students graduate beyond 4 years. And that is really important because we serve so many special needs students, thousands of special needs students in our district, and they have by law a right to extend their learning and not graduate at 18. They can extend that. We have English language learners, thousands of English language learners who are in our schools and our graduating classes who take more time. And we're good with that. And we have some students who just need more time. So as a result, when you look at our increased graduation rates overall as a district, we're looking at 87%. But when you start to really look at the schools, East High School, for example, and West, they're approximately 87%, even with mobility rates at 25 and 26%. So we have some uphill climbs, but what's extraordinary, and even with our students of low income, when you see where they're falling out, we've seen an improvement of almost 10% in that legacy rate just in the last several years. A lot is going on in our schools, and we can't discount where they've been. We are partnering like never before with not only what's going on inside our school buildings, but because of mobility, we have to do some things a little bit different.
So, and I know the voucher people have been saying how terrible our graduation rates were, and the speaker tonight said, well, you know, tell the story. Well, this is the story. And then we also left our legislators with a sheet which talks about the impact of a zero increase in revenue limit authority. 0% increase, we have to cut our operating budget by $5 to $6 million. And even with a $150 per pupil increase, we would have to reduce the budget by between 1.6 and 2.6 million. So 150 is a heck of a lot better than zero, but it still provides some challenges. So with that, I'll let Chris make some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Pleka. One thing I found so interesting talking to the legislators or their aides, some of the things we brought up they weren't aware of, and quite frankly, it doesn't surprise me. The budget document, I believe, is 1,100 plus pages, and this is sort of in there. And a point we're all trying to make is there's so many nuances with charter schools and vouchers, it really needs to be vetted. And indeed, if you truly believe in local control, which is a mantra that we often hear from our Republican colleagues, then why are you taking that control in these issues and taking care of it downstate? One thing that they found quite surprising, at least the ones I spoke with, and I'm sure the others, with charter schools, that even charter schools in the current bill, even current charter schools that we have as a district, with the new bill, it should be passed in the budget, we would no longer have control of those charter schools. It'd be taken over by a committee, politically appointed committee down in Madison. That just, most of them are shaking their head. They didn't see that. They didn't understand that. It makes no sense. The second one that most of them did not see, in fact, is we had a hard time explaining it to one, and hopefully Ellen Wagner was able to clarify and explain that to this particular representative, is the special ed vouchers on maintenance of effort. And maintenance of effort in special education, based on federal regulation, amounts to whatever you spend in special education across the board, all your expenses, salary, fringe benefits, materials, busing, etc. Whatever you spend on it this year, you have to spend no less than that the next year. Now, with special ed, they call them scholarships in the bill. They're really vouchers, special ed vouchers. It's almost like a double whammy. Those youngsters will get more money to go to the private parochial schools than they're actually giving us as a public school. But beyond that, with that money being gone, then we've got to make up that difference in our special ed spending. And where does it come from other than from regular education, which certainly isn't fair or reasonable for our regular education students. In terms of Superintendent Evers and Representative Pridemore, I quite frankly was very taken back. I have no problem listening to people that make different arguments on different sides of particular points. But my gosh, as state superintendent, you expect somebody to be running that's going to be an advocate, to be there to want to help kids. And quite frankly, that is not what Representative Pridemore, I mean, others can correct me, I saw nothing in his comments to show that he would be an advocate for kids. He was an advocate for keeping the budget down. And that's not what I want as a state superintendent. Maybe I'm old-fashioned that way. In terms of that $150 and others, thank you, Alan, for putting that together for us. That sort of opened people's eyes up a little bit. And I would say overall, as has already been said, you know, I have a sense, we have a sense that legislators are starting to see that vouchers do not belong in the budget bill. That's not to say that they're against them per se, but some of them are starting to say, well, that really doesn't belong here. It belongs at the local level to discuss. So I think we still have to keep the pressure on that particular issue. One never knows what the horse trading will be in the budget, on the budget committee or between the chambers on that particular issue. Overall, I also felt it was worthwhile going down there and meeting with our representatives or their aides.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Claudia?
Thank you. My role was to really help explain to the representatives what this special education scholarship really means, because many of them just think it's an opportunity for students with disabilities to have the same access to all education as everyone else. So what I helped them to understand was that these scholarships will let students with disabilities be able to go to private schools, to charter schools, and to public schools outside of their resident school district. So that is even more than just what people thought that this was about. The funding is going to be deducted from the general school aid from the resident school district, and up to 5% of the total number of students with disabilities in the state could apply. And once they receive this voucher, they continue to receive this voucher through their 21st, till they graduate or through their 21st birthday, regardless if they remain in special education or not, because there's no oversight as to whether or not they stay in special education. Once they go to take these scholarships, and they go to the private schools, they are not required to have teachers who are licensed, nor are they required to have occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech pathologists, or any of the other specialty people that we have in the public schools and that we are required by federal law to have in the public schools. So basically the students give up their IDEA rights, the Individuals with Disability Education Act rights. The IEP has got to be written before they go there, but it does not have to be applied once they get there. So the strongest education law in the world that has been in effect since 1972, you are taking those rights away from students by putting them in those schools. And I'm not going to say that some schools will not do their best, but there's not going to be oversight as to whether or not they do that. Let's see, they don't have to follow the seclusion and restraint laws, so they can do what they want and how they want with the students once they are there. There's no obligation that they must accept students with disabilities, and traditionally, in the voucher schools that presently exist, they do only accept students with the most mild disabilities, thereby leaving the students with the more significant disabilities to be educated by the public schools. My biggest thing was that we also need to provide them as a public school in their LEA with all of the reevaluations and initial evaluations that would otherwise be afforded to them if they were in a public education, financially burdening us even more. Along with that, we would have to provide transportation if it is written in their IEPs, or if they are considered to be poor, children in poverty. They have not yet defined what that is, nor is that in the bill anywhere. And my biggest point to the legislators was that this is a significant policy change. It's a policy change. It has no net fiscal impact on the state. So it needs to be pulled out of this bill and vetted out and helped to be explained to parents so they are making an educated decision about their children and their children's future. With that, I also wanted to bring for all of you information that's come out from the all of the advocacy groups in the state of Wisconsin. There's not an advocacy group out of the largest ones that is a proponent of this. As a matter of fact, they've gone to Congress to testify against the vouchers because of all of the points that I made. So when people ask you about this, I want you to be armed with information that came straight from special education advocates. Thank you. And I was well received by all of my lawmakers that I met with. Also, they were very unaware of a lot of the things, like you said, the MOA. I explained to them in other private voucher schools, on third Friday, the students are all returned back to their school, their resident school, and the money stays with them at the school that they, at the voucher school, thereby even having more fiscal impact on the public schools.
Well, and I think that because you lived and breathed Milwaukee Public Schools and vouchers, you know from whence you speak, and that carries a lot of credibility.
Yeah. Thank you, Claudia. Does anybody on the board have any questions on any of us that were in Madison?
May I just add one thing I should have? Claudia, on here, and I'm looking at it quickly, does it say what groups in the state are against, what special ed groups are against the voucher program?
That was Disability Rights Wisconsin on the back, on the bottom, and then the BPDD, which is the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities.
Besides these two? Yeah, are you aware of others besides these two?
Yes. There's a huge autism.
I'll tell you what, at your convenience, maybe you have that in update. I think we'd all like to know that, especially with local groups.
Sure, I can do that.
And if I may add one thing.
Sure, go ahead, Chris.
I failed to mention a note here. And Mike, you can verify this. When we were down there 2 years ago, there wasn't quite the feel about vouchers as this time. Most of the school districts 2 years ago, and I do believe most, they could care less about it. They didn't see it as an issue for them. It was an issue for the larger districts like Milwaukee, probably on it, Racine, Kenosha, maybe us. This year, the tone was much different with the delegates and school board members who were there. I believe definitely a large majority now see it as a statewide issue.
Well, I think they see that because the money comes off the top, and whether they have a private or parochial school in their school district or not, the money's coming off at the top. So it's going to affect them financially whether they lose one student to a voucher school. So I think there's that. And I think if you look at the suburbs around Green Bay, initially the feeling might have been, well, Green Bay gets them, we don't. But Milwaukee started out with just the city of Milwaukee. Now it's Milwaukee County. So if Green Bay gets vouchers, the next step, Brown County. So I think there's a realization that we're all in the same boat here, and we all need to work together. And I think they are, from WASB to the Administrators Alliance. You heard Dave Palachuk from O'Connell Falls. I think WEAC, obviously, they're working hard. I think we're all in this together.
And there were superintendents from other districts around the area that are not going to be affected by this. We had Southern Door, we had Oconto Falls, we had, the most notably, we had Pulaski was up there. So other districts are supporting us in the fact that they know that this is a bigger issue than just Green Bay.
Yeah, I think they see the privatization of public education and just as was spoken even earlier tonight, it's a slippery slope. And where will we be in 20 years? You know, and will all the children who attend public education be the same ones living in public housing?
Well, I think the goal is to turn us into Indiana, which has statewide vouchers.
But even Indiana has some stopgaps that you have to be part of a public school system before you step foot in a voucher school, whereas in Racine, 50% of the students currently enrolled
Have never been
have
in a
never
public
been
school.
a public school student. And and people are pushing back on flexing Indiana. So
And one of the things that I wasn't aware of, I think Michelle said she was aware of this, that with the voucher bill, once in, always in. So what does that do for incentive for if you need improvement and all your schools are doing great after a couple of years and then, tough luck. You're once in, always in.
Well,
So
and
that,
you can always change the metric so you get more and more school districts into it.
Sure.
So I think we have to be mindful of all of those pieces.
Andrew.
I just want to make sure in this whole discussion, there's certainly been talk and accusation about that we're getting involved as a board in partisan politics. And the bottom line for me is, yes, there happens to be one party that controls the governor, the assembly, and the Senate. However, that's not to say that we haven't taken positions before about things proposed by the other party or even bipartisan proposals that haven't been good for us. We've taken positions on those things all the time. I personally was quite outspoken about Democratic governors in the past that I didn't think did enough for education either. So I think regardless of who was doing it, any proposal that was going to take money out of our pockets, fund private school tuition for people who are going to private school anyways, and put it on the property tax bill is a problem. And I think we would have taken a position on that no matter who did it. I was against the Milwaukee Public Choice Program from the get-go because Green Bay, it's long lost dollars now, but dollars that would have been Green Bay were diverted to pay for families that were going to private school anyways. So we've taken positions of opposition to Republican and Democratic proposals.
Yeah, and I guess we've received some criticism for the letter that was sent out under Michelle and the board's signatures, but I think Brenda said it best at the start. We have a moral responsibility here. We're the elected officials, and we're elected to do what's best for public education. And I think this board and staff is unanimous in the fact that these voucher proposals and flat funding harm public education. And also, I don't view this as a partisan issue. We have been working hard with representatives of both parties, and I think representatives in both parties see the harm in vouchers and they see the harm in flatlining public education. So I think we need to continue to work with representatives from both parties and impress on them that public education should not be a partisan issue. Anything else from anybody?
Just thank you to the five of you for representing us very well.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
I think it was a day well spent.
Oh, I would agree.
5 of us jammed into one car, so we saved some
Road trip.
The front seat was fine.
Yes, it was,
I was going to
Mr.
say,
Todd's right.
chuckles from the middle of the back seat.
I was in the middle on the way home.
There was a lot of construction.
All right.
There was a lot of construction.
And I'll be real brief on the federal sequester update. There's not a lot new to report. There have been some efforts for some continuing resolutions to keep the funding going, but there's nothing definite right now. Hopefully next month I would have better news on that. So that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mike. We'll go back to our two motions.
Okay, it's
Now that
actually
Barb is-
3 motions. I'm going to repeat the one that I made, that the work-based, project-based counselor coordinator job description is presented be approved.
Oh, yeah, there's 3, sorry. So I'll ask my question. I'm
Okay.
curious, for the work-based, project-based counselor coordinator and the counselor coordinator, actually, maybe all three of them. Is that work that was done by someone else, or is this something that you saw as a missing piece and you're trying to fill gaps, or just kind of give an overview of these new positions?
Okay. For the alternative ed program support coordinator, this .5 position has been done by someone else. I just have redefined it and refined it to more what is needed for that position, and have changed the education requirements and the experience requirements. Our programs, a lot of our programs are now during the day. We still have one forward bound at night, and we have two GED option 2s at night, but we have the pathways and other programs during the day now, and so we need some more leadership and support, just really honing in on that pathways program. So that's that one. The counselor coordinator position was, I separated them out from Lori Peacock was doing part of this job, and this was the .5 position that she held that was called counselor coordinator, and it's basically doing the same thing. I would like it to, it worked a lot with the CTE and career and technical education things. And I'd like it to also do that, but also to look at supporting our bullying and suicide prevention curriculum, and supporting our attendance initiatives, and to continue to implement the Wisconsin Comprehensive Model, which is also what Lori did. So that's what she was doing. And then the final one, work-based, project-based counselor coordinator. Really, it was hard to come up with a title for that one, honestly. But I know that the students, for example, in JDL need some counseling support. Back when JDL was put into existence,
John Dewey.
I'm sorry, John Dewey Academy of Learning. John Dewey Academy of Learning. I had asked at that point if there would be funding for counselor social work, and that I was told it was not needed. I have learned that that support is needed for those students, and so I moved part of a social work position over to the John Dewey Learning Academy, and now we need to have some counseling time over there too. That's dedicated not just to those students, but also students in Second Chance, the off-site students, the students who are not at a regular school building. So about point 3, I would say, of that job is going to be doing that counseling. And then the other point 2 will be doing the work that Lori was also doing around youth apprenticeship and some of the other Second Chance and school to work. So it's the work-based, project-based counselor. The counselor is actually for the students, but also to work with the career and technical education curriculum coordinator and the career and technical education coordinator, which is Lori's. I think it's her new title. I could be wrong, but it's something like that. And to support the students that are in those programs.
All right. Thank you. Is there any other questions for Barb? All right, why don't we go to the first motion, which was the work-based, project-based counselor coordinator. Sandy?
Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Whiteman?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Carried 7-0, and then we'll move to the counselor coordinator.
I move that the counselor coordinator job description as presented be approved.
Second.
Roll call, Sandy, or any questions? No, okay, roll call.
Whiteman?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
I move that the alternative education program support coordinator job description as presented be approved.
Second.
Roll call, Sandy.
Blackout?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Whiteman?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. That's all the action items we have on there. Moving to systems reports, does anybody need a break?
No, let's
We're in the
roll.
home stretch. We're in the home stretch. We can do this.
Can I stand up then?
You may.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will turn that over to teaching and learning to Katie Maloney.
Thank you, Brenda. We had one discussion item, an update on the Fort Howard Priority School program, very informative update. And we have action items. The first one, I move that the residential architecture and residential construction transcribed credit curriculum and resources second reading be approved.
Second?
Any questions? All right, Sandy?
Blackout?
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Jeffries,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Franz.
Carried 7-0.
I move that the I Learn Green Bay Charter be approved.
Second. Sorry.
Back off, so.
Is there anything new with the charter?
Get Melissa and Allison Mandler. That's-
We walked all this way to tell you there's nothing new to report.
But just an opportunity to stretch your legs.
That's
I understand
right.
that completely.
That's right. No new developments from the DPI, no new developments from the state. So our recommendation continues to be to approve the charter.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, good.
Let's do it.
Roll call, Sandy?
Maloney,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Franz,
Aye.
Jeffries,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
All right, that's carried 7-0.
We had no other matters
Thank
on the
you.
law. That concludes our report. Thank you.
Oh, my God.
Thank you.
We sit there and say no changes and then my, oh, my. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks. Patience is a
All right,
virtue.
next we have our organizational support, and that will be facilitated by Chris Wagner.
Thank you. First item, minutes from the 3/11/13 meeting. Any comments on that? Moving right along. We had a presentation on energy saving. I think that was quite eye-opening to all of us, and certainly
It was
the public.
impressive.
We had a chance to see it. Our district, sometimes you always think all the experts are 50 miles away, but we have a lot of them in our district. Many, and the folks in that area do very well, facilities and maintenance, and that was very informative. Human resources discussion item. Are there any more updates since last week? Or we okay?
Yes, we are finalizing our staffing, and by tomorrow afternoon we will have a job posting out for all of the internal positions, and then the staff, the educators primarily, will have until 12 midnight on April 1st to apply internally for positions, and then the interviewing will start. And we hope to have that completed early the following week, and then after that, offers will be made, and then the resulting job openings will go out to an external posting. So we're moving along.
Any comments, questions, concerns? Thank you. Moving on to action items and then under business. And under human resources, the first one is that the administration benefits guidelines as presented be approved.
Second.
Anything you'd like to amplify?
Yes, I would like to just clarify that there are no additional benefits being proposed. This is simply a change in language, especially under the emeritus, to clarify the years of service one has to have in order to get the 100%, the 75%, and the 50%. On the first page, I just want to make sure that people are very clear that the reason the insurance language was struck out is because it's not accurate, and it's the old insurance language. And instead of detailing the insurance language, we are going to give people a copy of the actual insurance plan document. And then we've prepared a handout that we will give people. You can't see it, but it's just a single handout that it details some of the costs of the health insurance for administrators and the dental and the life. So that's why that's taken out. There are no additional benefits and no benefits being changed.
The emeritus is similar, the same, or different from the teachers?
It's the same. It's the same years of service. Administrators and teachers who were hired prior to July 1st, 1992, and are 55 years of age will receive the 100% emeritus. And then those hired between July 1st, 1992 and June 30th, 2002, and are age 55 will receive the 75%. So, and then on down. So the language that was removed, or actually added, clarified that July 1st, 1992 date.
call, Sandy.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
Next recommendation is that the wage and overtime policy, first reading, be approved.
Second.
Any questions?
There were no
Comments?
changes since the board met last week.
Right. Roll call, Sandy.
Becker?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
Next recommendation is that the educator contract as presented be approved.
Second.
There were just a few minor wording changes that Melissa worked out with us, and the board has a copy of that. It doesn't change the contract in any substantial way. The contracts will be issued individually to teachers with their FTE and their salary built in.
Any questions? Okay, Sandy.
Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Franz? Aye.
Carried 7-0.
Next recommendation is that the Elementary Integrated School of the Arts piano instructor job description as presented be approved.
Second.
We made the additional essential function number 10 works collaboratively with the fine arts, general music teachers, and other instructors to emphasize the collaboration.
Any questions? Sandy?
Blackout?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Franz? Aye.
Carried 7-0.
Next recommendation is that the Elementary Integrated School of the Arts violin instructor job description as presented be approved.
Second.
Questions? This had a similar change to the
Yes,
piano teacher.
yes.
Sandy, go ahead.
Blackout?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
And the last recommendation is that the consent items as presented be approved.
Second.
Any questions, or did you have any comment on any of those?
I just wanted to point out that the general music job description, we added the collaboration essential function as well. That's number 7. And then under the International Baccalaureate World School Teacher, we just spelled out some of the acronyms because we caught that when we looked at it the second time, and then took out the essential function of the 5-year commitment to IB with the payback if a person would leave. And I just added as a note under the experience so that a candidate would know that a 3-year commitment would be required. Didn't add anything about payback. I frankly felt that might scare candidates away, and when you want to recruit qualified people. And then just added that it applies to newly hired educators because that was the intent, but we needed to be more specific about that.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Sandy.
Wagner?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Franz? Aye. Jeffries?
Aye.
Blackout?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
All right, and then carried 7-0. We have our April board meeting coming up April 15th, and the other meetings that we've already discussed. And are there any other matters allowed by law?
Yes.
Oh, everybody's lined up. Chris, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. I realize we're probably not supposed to comment on people that spoke, but I just want to, since it was set out there, I just want to mention that I don't appreciate someone staying there and telling me I'm derelict in my duties, or that we are. I know, in fact, that none of us here would ever put anything out to the public that was misleading or not factual. And I think we can definitely stand by what we sent to the public as being factual and not misleading.
It's a serious charge.
Mm-hmm.
Celestine?
Well, after much ado, I think I can safely announce that Green Bay Public Schools will be entering into, at this point, an informal agreement with Green Bay Metro to provide transportation at no additional cost to our students to get on our public buses after school for free to the students. We already pay Green Bay Metro a certain amount of money, and so it's no additional cost to the district. And what the students will do is they will show their ID, and on the back there'll be a little UPC code that will indicate that they are currently participating in co-curriculars, and that means anything from the chess club to track team, school sanctioned and school approved activities. Did I get that right? Thank you, Mark. So this is something that Kim Shannock and Kim Paulo and I have been working on and hoping for quite some time. It was a little interesting there at the end, but I think it looks like we're going to go through with it, and I'm really excited. The mayor's going to announce it at his State of the City address on Wednesday. It's huge, Celestine.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
It is huge. It is huge.
That's great.
When we talk about
Thank you.
26% mobility, 30% in kids needing to move around, and we know that engagement is so critical. So it's huge. It really is huge, and I will monitor the data, because I truly believe we will see a lot of increased hooking back into schools that kids couldn't do in the past. So
I know that discouraged many, not only students, but families from participating in extracurricular activities.
Really?
Yes, a lot. So I know transportation was one of the biggest issues. So as a student, I appreciate that.
How about that?
Nicely done.
Yes, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just in terms of we heard many good things about our schools and tonight, and it's very affirming to acknowledge that and recognize that we are moving forward, we are making progress, and we are moving in the right direction for every child to ensure that all children are college, career, and community ready, and we can't lose sight of that. So.
All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Move, seconded. Good job.
Opposed? All right. Meeting is adjourned.
For more information or to obtain copies of this program, contact CESA 7 Interactive Learning Services at 920-465-5218.